Sizobheka uNkulunkulu ongcwele isihluko esikhona phakathi kwakithi KwaZulu-Natal ngobugebengu sihlangene sizinhlangano noma siqhamuka ey'ngxenyeni ezahlukene sicela uNkulunkulu ongcwele lokuhlangana phambi ngendlela okuyiyona yona abantu bakwaZulu-Natal babone ushintsho ey'mpilweni zabo bebone ukuphepha ey'mpilweni zabo ngoJesu Kristu Nkosi yethu. Amen.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Our introduction, introduction. The purpose of the meeting, as we all know, is to get presentations from departments so that we comment or even recommend to them. My name is Modli Trileza. I am from Umtwalume, Kanamakanza. This is my first meeting in this committee, but here I told officials that it can be my first meeting, but I have to hit the road running. I don't need time to learn because that will be a waste. So on that note, we'll come to introduction here, but let me also welcome the team from SAPS, which is led by Acting SOT Ubamukonewa and the Provincial Commissioner Ondaka. You are welcome. I think we can start our meeting and go as per our agenda. I've introduced myself.
Dr. Honorable Chair, my name is Nhlanhla Msimang, a member of a portfolio committee.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo, igama lami nguMbali Shinga, ngi-MPL and a member of the portfolio committee on community safety and liaison workshop.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo, ngibingelele kuwena nonke abasendlini. Igama lami ngosithembiso, ngingowakwaMshengu Isibongo, ngiyilunga lesishayamthetho, ngiyilunga lekomiti lezokuphepha. Ngiyabonga.
Subingelele igama uNhlaphane Ntombela, member of the portfolio committee.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sharon Hussain, member of the portfolio committee.
Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members. Igama lami nguMfuyo Konewe Sibongo, acting head of department, community safety and liaison.
Thank you, sir. Chairperson, honorable members, Lieutenant General Finance, yes, please.
Greetings, honored Chairperson. My name is Dr. Kamani, acting head of Secretariat for Police Service.
Ngibingelele usihlalo wekomiti namalungu ahloniphekile. Uchami Kwalamushomi, Chief Director Corporate Management, going Department of Community Safety and Liaison.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Colonel Singh. I'm representing General Sorona. He sends his apologies from the DECI and the KZN. Thank you.
Honorable members, good morning. Colleagues, good morning. Director, Integrated Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Committee, Safety and Liaison.
Members, my colleagues, my name is Nosisa Blankenberg. I'm Director, Risk and Integrity Management, Community Safety.
Good morning, honorable members, acting issue TPC and colleagues. My name is Police Wadiko, the Director for Intergovernmental Relations and Special Projects from the Department of Community Safety and Liaison.
Ngibingelele sihlalo nendlu yonke igama lami ngipumlani Ngcobo. I am an assistant director from IPID. I'm representing the office. Thank you.
Sibonge mhlawumbe ngaphambili sibingelela ama-member committee sibingelele bonke abakhona umthunzi Mathendra ombele CPF KwaZulu-Natal. Ngiyabonga.
Sibingelele sihlalo HOD nindlu yonke u-advocate uCeza district manager Amajuba district ka-community safety and liaison.
Ngibingelele sihlalo igama uBheki wabazikalala representer iKZN CCBA ngibusihlalo la eMajuba. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Cindy Swahlofe, the Government of Community Safety and Liaison.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, committee members, Provincial Commissioner Kwanazi, Acting HOD Mr. Kolibe. I am Colonel Walji from Strategic Management in the SEPS. Thank you so much.
Ngibingelele sihlalo, ngibingelele lonke amalungu akhona phakathi, ngibingelele senior management. Igama lami nguMonde Nondabula, Office Namam Peggy Konyeni. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Mamusile Mhlongo. I'm representing SIRA and the Provincial Manager, Kenya.
Good morning, members of the Portfolio Committee and colleagues. Osli Dilebengu from the Office of the HOD Office Manager.
Honorable Chair, honorable members, greetings, and the colleagues. My name is Kolagele Sengwa, Director of Financial Management, Community Safety and Liaison.
Good morning, honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Acting HOD Goniwe, Provincial Commissioner Kwanasi, colleagues. My name is Khaled Mbongwe, Director responsible for eThekwini in the Department of Community Safety and Liaison.
So oh, okay. Sabonga kakhulu. I think I'm not sure if you proper Mr. Goniwe if you apologize for the MSC, but he contacted me as well.
Thanks, Chairperson, for the opportunity. I want Chairperson to tender an apology for our MSC. I'm Peggy Gonyeni. This function coincided with her appointment with the doctor. I think we all know what happened, so she's just conducting checkups. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think because of time, there are some challenges to most of us of time because there's other commitments. And as you know, like myself, you heard I said I'm from Mutwalunga, and from here to Mutwalunga with the new challenges on our roads, it's about 6 hours. So it's difficult to live late. But yeah, I'm told that you do your presentation with a very organized way. That's what I'm told. I hope you all are not going to disappoint me. So in that case, I'm remarks by MSC, so of course she's not around. I'm not going to say much for now before you present because it's my first meeting. So I don't know how you, with the challenges that you are having and especially in police stations. But I'm not going to comment for now. I just want to hear your presentation first. If maybe it covers some of the issues that was discovered and especially the challenges that are faced by our communities as they are affected by crime. Can we go to item 6? Departmental fourth quarter reports, financials and non-financials. Can you go to that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to honorable members of the Portfolio Committee once again. Chairperson, in the interest of time, as you correctly said, I've actually instructed my team just to keep the presentation short, but the copies that we'll be receiving will give details afterward. And Chairperson, I think before we move, because it's for the first time to hear, I thought it is prudent and important for me just to give a highlight on the mandate of the department, so that because I know many of our colleagues and members confuse us as the department with SAPS. So it's good all the time to say because we are separate departments. So from the side of the department chair is that our mandate, the core mandate of the department is to exercise the civilian oversight over the police. That means we look at the work of the police, we check whether police complies with the regulations, with their national instructions. That is our mandate. And also we recommend, after so we visit all stations, we do all the work on the ground as the civilians, and because it was deliberate that we are civilian. That means, Chairperson, we are like in the middle between the police on one right hand and the community on the other side. The viewing of the policing from our side is that we see policing through the eyes of the public. We represent the public all the time. Even when police on the other side, we want to engage with the community, we also in the center. We do also the second part, don't want to belong, also we do the revitalization of the community safety structure, the sustenance, because we are part of that from the department side. We make sure that CPF as Chairperson is here, it's there. We also work with other departments, like I'm happy because the IP is here, also deal with complaints. IP deals with complaints as well from the public, but the law separated. The law separates boys from men. I always say that because they deal with serious issues of misconduct, rape issues, rapes in jails and all. But in as community safety, we only deal with service delivery complaints, the inadequacies to the police service. That's what we deal with from the side of the department. I just wanted to give that light, because by next time, Chairperson, we will sit and also get into details in terms of programs. What is it that we do? But when we get findings from the stations, then with the provincial commissioner, we have what is called quarterly review sessions. We sit down, present findings, and PC will instruct his team to make sure that the rectification is done and the implementation is done. I just wanted to give that highlight, Chairperson, but I know that time is not in our side. I will just, on the presentations as the agenda, want to ask my CFO there, who will lead us, just in brief, CFO, on the department's quarterly report financials. So after CFO, Umakosi will quickly come, chairs the agenda, to give a non-financial and performance report. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Koniwe. Time is important, but let's be perfect. I'm late because of time.
Okay.
But as you said, it's a brief, detailed report.
Okay. Okay.
Let's make sure. Well, if you can't finish early, so be it. We are here to work at the end of the day.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings again to honorable members and the colleagues. Chair will be presenting the financial report for the fourth quarter in our 21-22 financial year, and also outlining the expenditure incurred relating to COVID-19 and also relating to the conditional grant that is allocated to the department. On slide 3, I'll skip the overview, as the HOD has already spoken to the overview in terms of the mandate of the department. While she's struggling with the technology, I'm going to move with the pages because we do have the manual presentations. On slide 4, also, Chair, we also giving a brief overview in terms of the departmental mandate as per the indicators, and I'll be brief, Chair, that mainly the strategic objective of the department is mainly to evaluate the police service delivery and compliance with the national police standards, and also to make the recommendations. That is a brief, Chair, but we do have other strategic objectives that I will allow the colleagues that will be giving us the presentation, mainly on the mandate, to speak to that in depth. On slide 5, Chair, we're speaking to the financial position of the department as at the end of the financial year, which is the 31st of March 2022. And we indicate, Chair, that in terms of our spending, we had the adjusted budget allocation of 233,378,000, and the actual expenditure, Chair, that was spent for the financial year is 232,419,000, with the balance of 959,000, Chair. In the precise percentage, that is 99.9% budget spent, but with the rounding off, we then say it's 100%. On the economic classification, Chair, of the expenditure itself, when we look at the compensation of employees, we had the adjusted budget of 107,031,000, and we had the extra expenditure of 106,134,000, showing the balance that was unspent of 897,000, that meaning that we're sitting at 99%. On the goods and services, Chair, we had the balance allocated, adjusted of 119,361,000. The actual expenditure was 119,414,000, meaning that we overspent with 53,000, Chair. On the transfers and subsidies, also on the adjusted balance allocation, of 122,000. The actual expenditure was 75,000 with a balance of 47,000. Then the payment for capital assets, Chair, we had the adjusted balance in terms of the budget final allocation of 6,864,000, and we had the actual expenditure of 6,796,000, Chair, meaning that we spent 99%. Chair, that is the slide that I will mainly give the brief analysis of the actual expenditure. Chair, we want to see that in terms of the compensation of employees, that is the economic classification that we underspent, which it's one of this 0.1% that we could not make it 100% in terms of the actual 100% in terms of the rent and sales. Chair, on slide 6, also, Chair, briefly, it's what we've spoken to, that in terms of the adjustment budgets, the compensation of employees, it was at 99%, and it's mainly because of the ongoing recruitment in the department. On the other post that we feel, you find out that it was the internal candidates. Hence, that means that as much as we are filling the vacancies, but we still see that the incoming, the post, it's still vacant. It's an ongoing process, Chairperson, which make it hard to spend 100% when it comes to the compensation of employees. You will note that we are 99% away in terms of filling the approved structure of the department, meaning that there is a positive movement in terms of filling those vacant posts to ensure that in future we spend 100% on the compensation of employees. On program 1, now looking at the actual programs of the department, we have 2 programs. The first program for administration and the second program for the service delivery, which is program 2. On the program 1, also briefly, Chair, the main purpose of the program is to provide the essential administration and management support, while we're also providing the strategic direction and support to the department. It mainly has the sub-directorates, administrative, financial, legal support, and also the human resources services. So it's mainly on program 1, the administration of the department. Also, Chair, if we analyze the expenditure for program 1, it's worth noting, Chair, that it's mainly made up of the fixed cost of the department, and also looking on those fixed costs, Chair, we're mentioning them that as there are budget cuts, you'll see that we'll normally cut on program 2 and not cut on program 1, and it's mainly because it's the fixed cost where the contracts cannot be amended. Hence, the service delivery program end up being affected whenever there are budget cuts. Chair, on the economic classification for program 1, I'll be brief because it's the breakdown of what we've alluded on the previous slides. We indicated that for program 1, we were at 92%. With the compensation of employees, we're at 98%, goods and services, 88%, transfers and subsidies, 42%, and the payment for capital assets, we were at 88%, and that is for program 1. Also, if we break down the program 1 now per the offices, for the offices that we house there, on the office of the HOD, that office was at 99% at the end of the financial year. Financial management was at 89%, corporate services 95%, for legal services we're at 89%, and then security services were at 79%, Chair. Giving the analysis, Chair, on the expenditure movement for program 1, as we indicated that we are at 92% as compared to the final adjustment budget. We indicate, Chair, that mainly on the goods and services, there was an underspending which related to the travel agent, as the nature of the travel agent is that, Chair, when we make the bookings for this month, for instance, you will only get the bill in the following month. So in terms of the payment, you will always spend first and then pay after you get the invoices from them. Hence, by the end of the financial year, that will mean that all your travels related to March, you cannot pay them in that particular month and then affect the spending. Chair, coming to program 2 of the department, also I will take it brief that it's mainly the mandate, as we highlighted on the first slide, that it's a program that's looking at the service delivery at the core of the department. And it houses these sub-directorates, which is policy research, monitoring and evaluation, safety promotion, also community policy relations. So, Chair, it's mainly the core of the department in terms of the mandate of the department. For program 2, Chair, looking at the spending analysis, for program 2, we were at 106%, and meaning that program 2 was 106% and program 1 at 92%, meaning that when you combine them together, then you come to this 99.9%. But for compensation of employees, on program 2, we were 100% spent. On the goods and services, we overspent, sitting at 112%. And Chair, on the payment for capital assets also, we were at 167% in terms of the spending. For the sub-programs, as alluded on, for program 2, policy and research, at brief, we're at 97%. Monitoring and evaluation at 81%, for safety promotion 106%, community police relations 124%, program support 112%. Chair, that indicates that for program 2, which is the core service delivery program of the department, in terms of the spending, they even spend more, which then shows, Chair, that in terms of the budget allocation that we have for the department, there is a need, more need for us to be funded more, as you will see that there is a need to spend. Looking at the third quarter, Chair, you will note that the department, that's where we need more funding, looking at the safety month and also the festive season. Now, without even looking to those issues that come without being budgeted, and the department needs to go and intervene. So that is the situation, Chair, that we're facing in the department. We also, Chair, indicate that on the payment for capital assets, that is where we're paying for the assets that we use, especially the tools of trade, if we can put it that way, and also to ensure that the offices are finished. Chair, looking at the conditional grant on slide 15, we indicate, Chair, that on the conditional grant, we had a grant allocation of 4.1 million, Chair, and we had the actual spending of 101%, meaning that we had to even subsidize it with the equitable share, as the needs were more than the funds that are allocated. Looking at the conditional grant, Chair, on the analysis, we give a background that it is for the VSCPP program, which is social crime prevention volunteers that are employed by the department. And we indicate, Chair, that they earn the stipend that you get paid per the timesheet that is verified. And also we indicate that the number at the financial year end, we had 151 volunteers that were under the program, Chair. Also looking at the expenditure allocated for COVID-19 related projects, we allocated 521,000, and the actual expenditure was 147,000. We're at 28%. Chair, we only procure the COVID-19 related whenever there is a need. So, Chair, that indicates that we had all the necessary stuff that we needed for COVID-19, being the sanitizers and the mask, since we could not finish the budget that was allocated. Chair, for fourth quarter, that is the expenditure report that we're tabling as a department for the committee to note and also give the input. Thank you.
Thank you, my sister. The next presentation.
Good morning again, Honorable Chair. My presentation will reflect the fourth quarter performance information for the department. It specifically reflects Program 2, which is the core service delivery of the department. As a department, we have 3 outcomes. Outcome number 1, which talks to administration, which is improved operational excellence, and outcome number 2, which focuses on the core service delivery program, which is Program 2. We've got outcome 2, which talks to improved quality of policing, and outcome 3, which talks to improved community police relations. In terms of outcome 2, which is improved quality of policing, we had 17 indicators that we had targeted for the fourth quarter, and we achieved 9, which equates to 59%, and we underachieved 2 indicators, which was 12%, and we overachieved 5 indicators under that outcome. And for outcome number 3, which talks to improved community police relations, we had targeted for 8 indicators as a department as per our annual performance plan, and we had achieved 4 indicators and overachieved 8 indicators when it comes to this outcome. Overall, as the department for the fourth quarter, we had 25 indicators that we had targeted for, and we achieved 14 and overachieved 13, and we underachieved by 2 indicators. And in terms of the indicators that were not achieved, it's 2 indicators that relates to the number of follow-up interventions on stations evaluated, as well as the number of follow-up intervention on Domestic Violence Act audit that are conducted at police stations. These 2 indicators were not per se not achieved, but we had achieved the targets during the previous quarters. Therefore, when we report, it's reflect as a non-achievement, but we have then provided a corrective measure for 2022-2023, where we have strengthened our targeting mechanism and planning mechanism for 2022-2023 financial year, of which is what it was a shortfall for us, our targeting and planning mechanism. So we have addressed that in the new financial year, in this financial year. And as a department, for the fourth quarter, the overall performance sits at 108%, which is a slight overachievement in relations to our indicators. This also correlates with the budget analysis that the CFO has presented now, of which, as per Program 2, we were sitting at 106% budget expenditure, of which for the performance information, we're sitting at 108%. That means the plan and the budget correlated this quarter. I'm not sure whether the members would like me to take them through the indicators, because I've just focused on the indicators that have challenges, of which we have addressed those challenges.
No, just take us through.
Okay. under the improved, the outcome relating to improved quality of policing, as I've stated that we had 17 indicators. These indicators were the number of follow-up interventions on police stations evaluated. For fourth quarter, we had a target of 38 and we achieved 36, and we had a variance of -2. And the reason was that the target was achieved during previous quarters, as I have stated. And the indicator on the number of police stations monitored for the compliance with lockdown regulations, we had a target of 13 and we achieved 29, which was an overachievement. And it was stated that this is a demand-driven indicator, hence the overachievement. The number of follow-up interventions on Domestic Violence Act audits, we had a target of 38 and we achieved 36, where we had a variance of 2. The reason is the same as the first one, that the target was achieved during previous quarters. And the number of reports on the implementation of IP recommendations by SAPS, we had a target of 1 and we achieved 1. And the number of specialized units monitored by our department, we had a target of 4 and we achieved 4. And the number of reports on police visibility during major events, service delivery, protest and community conflict, we had a target of 13 and we achieved 23, of which this is a demand-driven indicator, because you cannot plan for a service delivery, protest, community conflicts. It's just demand-driven. And also for the number of police customer satisfaction surveys conducted, we had a target of 13 and we achieved 14. The variance was +1 there due to the directive from the National Department to prioritize the top 30 crime contribution stations within KwaZulu-Natal. And in terms of indicator 8, which is the number of evaluation reports on targeted SAPS headquarters components produced, with a target of 1 and we achieved 1. Indicator number 9, which is the number of reports on the implementation of school safety crime prevention protocol on stations monitored, we had a target of 13 and we achieved 27, where we had a variance of +14. And also the reason is that the indicator is demand driven, and we also had to consider the top 30 crime contribution stations. The number of management reports compiled on monitoring the service delivery complaints for gender-based violence and femicide against SAPS, we had a target of 1 and we achieved 1. And the number of metropolis region monitored, we had a target of 1, of which it was achieved during Q2. Therefore, that's why it is stated that the variance is -1. We had already achieved this indicator, this target, rather. For outcome 2 continuation, in indicator number 13, the number of consolidated provincial safety priorities research, we had to produce 1 research, of which we achieved the target. And the number of research reports on special project commissioned by the Civilian Secretariat for Police produced, we had a target of 1 and we produced that 1 research report. And the number of reports on policing priorities and directive reviewed, we had a target of 1 and we achieved 1. And the number of monitoring tools reviewed, we had a target of 1, we achieved 1. And the number of reports on safety models developed, we had a target of 1 and we achieved 1. Going further to outcome 3, which talks to improved community police relations, we had a number of community safety forums assessed on functionality. We had a target of 8 and we achieved 15. So the variance is +7. and that the target was overachieved due to the local government election and the change of leadership within the municipalities. There were delays in meeting the target in previous quarters because there was still that leadership, new leadership coming into municipalities, and then the mayors and councillors were mostly in induction during the previous quarter, which was in the third quarter. And the number of functional CPFs assessed, we had a target of 37 and we achieved 38, and the variance is +1 due to one additional assessment done at one of the top 30 crime contributing stations. The number of reports on initiatives to support provincial community safety and structures, we had a target of 1 and we have achieved that. And the number of initiatives to support district community safety structures produced, we had a target of 13 and we achieved 38. So the variance was +25, and also the indicator is demand driven. The number of reports on the deployment of crime prevention volunteers, we had a target of 1 and we have achieved the target. Indicator number 6 under outcome 3 talks to the number of reports on targeted integrated law enforcement initiative produced. We had a target of 1 in this quarter and we have achieved 1. The number of reports on the deployment of crime prevention volunteers at victim-friendly facilities for gender-based violence, we had a target of 1 and we have achieved that 1. And in terms of a number of reports on youth crime prevention programs implemented, we had no target, but we achieved 24, and the variance was 24. However, there was no target set for this quarter, but there was an overachievement due to that the performance is being demand-driven. And also the number of rural safety crime prevention programs implemented, we had no target for this reporting period, but we had achieved 5 as a department, and the variance was 5, +5. And the reason deviation was that there was no set target for this quarter, but awarenesses were conducted due to the number of stock theft incidents reports received from district officers, and then an urgent intervention had to be done as a response. In terms of number of reports in communities or on communities in dialogue on a crime prevention program, we had no target, but we achieved 12. Also due to that, there was a need for intervention after the unrest, which increased the conflicts amongst different communities and different races. So the urgent response was needed within KwaZulu-Natal. And the number of reports on crime prevention program implemented for vulnerable groups were the target of 13 and we achieved 18. The variance was +5, and also the indicator is demand driven. And also for public participation, crime prevention programs implemented, we had no target for this reporting period, but we achieved 7, therefore the variance is +7. It also forms part of being demand driven. Most of our indicators are demand driven because we deal with crime issues. And the last slide is just an analysis of the performance, where 52% we had an overachievement, 56 we had achieved our target as planned, and 8 we did not achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my sister. So can we engage on these 2 reports, financials and non-financials, before we move into the other reports? members, Hlonishwa Mshembu, Hlonishwa Hussein, Hlonishwa Matachobela. All right. Can we take it in that order?
Thank you. Chair, thank you for lending me your microphone. Mine is on the non-financials, Chair. I think on financials, I'm relatively covered. I want to comment on slide 7 on the assessment of the functional CPFs for the fourth quarter. 37 were assessed. If I'm not mistaken, we have 187 police stations in the province. 184. Okay. I'm increasing that. It means PC, you must add 3 more. Now, if I were to ask how many CPFs are launched CPFs in the province, because I guess each and every police station must have a community policing forum. Now, I'm looking at the number. If you were to divide 184 times with 4 quarters, it means you will need to have at least around 41 CPFs that you assess per quarter. How many functional CPFs you have, or CPFs that you have launched, that you know that they are there, they exist. Where they don't exist, why they don't exist. This question is prompted by the number of CPFs that you have assessed over the quarter under review. Anyway, we are already on the first quarter of the financial year now. On slide 10, communities in dialogue, there was no target. But we live in a very volatile province where more often than not, there are conflicts of one nature or the other. It's whether there are conflicts around issues of traditional leadership, issues of taxi establishments, and so on and so on. It's amazing that you had no target in fact, that's one of your core areas of function where you mediate and get communities to dialogue in the events or in cases of conflict. Acting HOD, it's shocking to hear that you had no target, but you were able to facilitate almost 12 engagements of getting communities to dialogue in order to resolve the tensions or problems, obviously as a result of whatever you call it, unrest or whatever the name may be. But I'm just raising a concern that you had no target, whereas we have troubles throughout our 10 districts, including the metro. Thank you.
Yeah, can I just develop a little bit point of launched and functionality? Those that are launched and how are they functioning? I think that's very important as a boss. As you are saying, you want the number of the launched ones, but also the functionality, their functionality. Are they functioning? Yeah, thank you. What's the speaker? Pleasure, Hussein.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with the financials first, just a few questions on that. With regards to the compensation of employees, there's still about 12 vacant posts that's left. Is there a possibility that this will be filled by the end of the year? Because they have noted some delays with the recruitment process there as well. And we hear this time and time and time again, so I'm hoping that at least this will be resolved. Chair, I did note that in their report, they did identify a few areas where they had spent on the July unrest. Can we get a total figure on what the department spent during the unrest and what impact it made on the department's budget for the 21-22 financial year as well? And then on the last table, which reflected the 28% spending on COVID, what was the reason for the slow spending in this quarter, in the third and fourth quarter? If you could just get some understanding with regards to that. So that is as far as the financials. Chair, on the non-financials, I first want to reflect on the opening statement of the acting HOD. And just to reiterate what he said and to make it clear, I just want to just rephrase what you said in another form. So basically, the Department of Community Safety will conduct oversights and provide recommendations to address the inadequacies of SAPS. These reports are then submitted to the PC to then be addressed. And then that, Chair, is a concern for me because obviously including in the inadequacies will be the stuff that we have picked up in the oversight as well, with the state of the department's buildings and SAPS offices, the state in which SAPS officers have to work every day. The issue about the succession plan, with the HR issues about the filling of unfilled vacant posts that has been going on for years. The issue of resources, the issue of the vehicles, tools of trade, etc., etc., etc. So when you look at the targets that we are being presented, and everything says target achieved, underachieved here and there, and target achieved, and so on and so on and so on. And then when we conduct our oversights, we then see, okay, some stations don't even have victim-friendly rooms. They're operating from a room, not creating proper dignity to victims of gender-based violence and rape, etc. How are they not being addressed at this point in time when the department still comes here and reports on them and say achieved and your target is 1, for example? And further to that, if you compare that and put that in line with the crime stats, there has been, if anything, this province has shown a constant increase. We are the rape capital of South Africa. We are now the murder capital of South Africa. What issues are being addressed to try and turn that around from the department's point of view, seeing as you all are doing these oversights on a more regular basis than we are as a portfolio committee? Chair, I must also tell you that when these reports come to us about the targets being achieved, we've raised constantly that the department should be submitting to this portfolio committee a summarized version of the oversight visits so that the portfolio committee is also appraised on what has happened in certain SAP stations that they have so-called overseen. And we are not shocked when we go into our oversight and see unbelievable circumstances under which SAPS officers have to work on a daily basis, and also disadvantages the communities where they are not given proper services as well. So this can't continue in the manner that it is at the moment, Chair. It can't be that the department comes here on a month-to-month basis, gives us reports that targets are achieved, but when we compare that in line with what SAPS is doing, if they are reporting this to SAPS, why are we not getting reports back that there has been non-compliance from SAPS in terms of A, B, C, D things that we have now recommended to SAPS? Because it can't be that you keep recommending to SAPS and you're getting shut down and nothing is being done about it. Then of what purpose is this department? And of what purpose is us as a portfolio committee sitting here, just coming and listening to reports month after month with no resolutions or no signs of any relief when it comes to crime? because that's your core function as a department. But yet we are seeing no relief in that respect. So I just want some clarity in that respect, Chair, because as a portfolio committee, we also have a mandate to make sure that the department also acts on whatever their recommendation is, and that there is performance in that side. And to be honest, although this is the department with the smallest budget, I must say the performance as well has been a bit delayed. So if we really want a stronger force to be reckoned with, we really need to jack up in some parts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Robert.
Thank you, Chairperson, honorable members, and all the officials present. I am on the report on online financials. I know Honorable Shredu has taken some of my points, but I'm on your planning as the department. I am a bit concerned of the key things that you leave out. Let me start by saying it would be nice if we get the updates as well on other departmental programs, such as your community policing forums functionality, your schools monitoring and crime awareness. But let me come to the slides that were presented. You have no target for youth crime prevention. And that one for me honestly raises alarm if you look at KZN now and the challenges that we face in as far as our young people, the youth is concerned. But there was no planning around that. But you went to achieve 24 on that line. But then it takes me to check, because my understanding is that within the CPF structure, there should be representatives from youth, if I'm not mistaken, through the youth desk. So if we do not plan for the youth crime prevention, and you have youth, the young people themselves sitting on the structure, what does that tell us? If I were to sit in the structure to represent women and the planning happens and nothing is being said about women, and I allow that plan to go out with zero activities on women, really it is concerning. But other than that, really there should be programs planned for EEUD, Masbega, things that are happening, the drugs, the alcohol, all the shootings happening in Taven, the underage, and all that. Those are the programs for EUD. And again, there was no planning for the target for the number of rural safety crime prevention. No planning on that. And from where I am sitting, we hear and we learn a lot of stock theft in rural areas and maybe in farms, but we did not plan around that. So honestly, I want to check and challenge the planning. There was another activity that I had noted that the presenter highlighted that it was exhausted in Q3. It is okay, but again, it is the issue of planning, because if you look at Q4, there was no achievement. I had noted that, but then she did mention all the activities were done at Q3. So all those concerns, Chairperson, revolve around the issue of planning. And then maybe the last question on the financials, you told us about the 151 volunteers, if I got it correctly. There was an issue before of those volunteers who raised a concern or requested that the UIF amount be deducted out of their stipend. Maybe if we can get an update what happened on that? How did you resolve it? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Hlonishwa. I think you've covered some of my concerns as well. Looks like where communities involved and youth, you don't have a target there, but you end up performing. I think it shows for the future what you need to consider that. Because especially youth, if you don't have a target on them, then I think that we have a challenge there. But also on the first line of financials, I'm looking at your total, you underspend. Instead of 233 budget, you spend 232, but you say you spend 100%. And also below that, the next slide, second slide. It talks to where you also overspend and you say it's 100%. I don't understand that. When you underspend, you say 100%. When you overspend again, you say 100%. Please comment on that because I really don't understand it. The underspending, even if it's 1%, that's underspending. Even overspending, even if it's 1%, it's overspending. I consider, and some of your overspendings are too high. And I know what Commissioner Mazangos used to say, overspending, it's a crime if not justifiable. But underspending is a sin. Underspending is a sin. Because you disadvantage someone who's supposed to benefit, but because you understand, and that particular somebody will not benefit. But now your overspending, if it's too high, I don't think it can be justified. I don't think so. But you finish with the comments. No other hand. Can you respond to this one and then we move on?
Thank you, Chairperson. With your permission, Chairperson, I want to request to CFO to respond first on financials. Then with the team will come and respond on non-financials. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. The first one, when we're looking on the vacant post, where the honourable member is checking if this post will be filled by the end of the financial year. Chair, we want alluded that when it comes to the filling of vacant post, we do get the internal promotions which make it the target that it's always to fill the post, but we still have those vacant posts. But looking at the number and looking at where we're coming from, Chair, we are confident that this post will be filled by the end of the financial year. It's very few vacant posts now, it's 10, and it's only 2 that are at a management level, and the other posts are as a result of the internal promotions. On the issues of the July unrest, Chair, the department has the normal monitoring and evaluation, and also on our procurement plans we have the awareness campaign that budgeted already. But with the July unrest, Chair, our monitoring and evaluation had to work tirelessly to ensure, but there were also the issues as a result of the July unrest, where we had to address the issues of the Russian sanctions. And as a department on those, with our existing awareness campaigns, we had to expand the scope to ensure that we also do the dialogues so that we can meditate on those areas And also we conducted the social cohesion. So on our awareness campaigns, Chair, that we had already in our plans for the year, we had to expand the scope so that we can respond on the issues that came as a result of the July unrest. On the COVID-19 spending, Chair, on the COVID-19 spending, you will only procure when there is a need, so it's demand driven on the budget that is allocated and on the expenditure that actually incurred. Chair, it was a result that what we have in stock could cover us for the greater period of the financial year as compared to what we have anticipated. And also the issue of procuring the cloth mask, also it's gave a saving in the department that you don't have to procure the mask now and then. Hence, that's why we have the low spending in that regard on the COVID-19 related. On the spending, Chair, let me first talk to the issues of where we indicated that we have a very high percentage in terms of overspending, which is mainly our program 2. But looking at program 1, then it's underspending. And then, Chair, if you combine the two, then it will offset the ones that overspent more with the one that's underspent. And on the first slide, where the honourable member indicates that we indicate the budget was 232 and we indicated that 233, then we indicated we spent 232. I indicated, Chairperson, that the actual percentage is 99.9%. But on the accounting, we round off, there's something called that we round off to the nearest cent. However, we note that if the committee wants it in the actual figures, we'll prepare the reports as such, but it's the issue of rounding off to the next decimal place. But in future, to make it easily be readable to the committee members, we'll put it as such without rounding it off. I think also there was the issues of where we indicated the 100%, but it was overspent. For the fourth quarter, honourable members, it's different to the other previous 3 quarters. On the fourth quarter, because it's the last quarter, this is where now, even where you underspend, we write a submission to our provincial treasury to request to offset those classifications. Hence, that's why on other areas where we underspend, but we indicated that it's 100%, because of the shift to these classifications, they were allowed. But I believe in future, Chair, we'll include another slide where we indicate that this is what it was before the classification was allowed, and that we can move and shift the funds. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. I understand your accounting language, but not for the purpose of easily readable. For the purpose of members to play oversight. Because if you say 100%, then it's fine with us. But when you go there to the scope to account, it's a different story. Thank you. I think we are fine with this report.
Okay.
Oh, there's more responses. Okay.
Thank you. The response is on non-financials, but I will also request my colleagues from program 2 to also respond. In terms of program planning, I note the comments from the committee, and we have addressed the issues of targeting and planning for this financial year, which is 2022-2023. We have addressed that in our new APP, and also going forward, will ensure that the research informs program planning, because we do have a research directorate within our department, and will ensure that the programs will be informed by the research that is conducted by our research directorate. If I can ask.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to respond on the issues, start with the issues raised by Honorable Mshengu, especially on the launched and functionalities of the CPF. To respond on that one, I'm happy because Chairperson Provincial is here, and I can bring in the next meeting because the numbers keep on changing. If people, and even now we're undergoing the restructuring, electing AGMs, the new structures, we can come to new permission and present the full, but we do have the numbers on the functionalities, those that are launched, but CPF are existing in all 184 stations. They were launched. It will be a matter of being functional, and we check that by checking meetings, still sitting, but they were all launched. So that is why even the provincial commissioner announced that we need to come to the structure so that we have the new leadership. On the next issue was on public protest. We do have a committee, especially the committee under JCPS, dealing specifically with public protest, where all law enforcement agencies and government are part of that. But because public protests sometimes are like complaints, we circle them as a demand-driven project, because it's so difficult to say 10. Then you get 30, sometimes you put 30, you get even underperformance, you get 10. So we said there is a committee, and that committee technically it's chaired by myself. All departments sit every month where we present and we take those things to cabinet. So that's how we handle the issue, but I hear your point. Chairperson, I just also want to go straight to issues also raised by Honorable Singh. I think you raised also valid issues in terms of really our existence as the community safety and liaison. We do go to stations and evaluate, get recommendations, and as you said, also present them actually not only to national as well as to provincial commissioner for action. But normally the PC will take those things that you can do at station level. Once we finish, we present it to the cluster to rectify those small things, and we take it to the level of PC as well as the PC will do. There are issues that even subs cannot do, issues that fall under public works, of which they will just say, no, these issues were referred because it involved buildings and all those structure. And also on the issue of satisfaction on the current, that's why as the department, we came up last year to address exactly the issue of impact. I think Honorable Singh, you're referring to impact, what impact? Who was it? Oh, was saying, I'm sorry. That means I did not hear what I was saying. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for that. Thank you, Honorable Mshengu, for that. Honorable Hussein. Yeah, we came out with a project called Customer Satisfaction Survey, because we said it's only the communities that will tell us whether police are effective or not effective. And when we do that, we take it as it's done by independent person, because both us and subs, we're dealing with policing issues, so that we get, there is a report, we can even get it even now, because it's still new from to say these are the gaps and we close this gap. But before, we struggled to get, let me just be honest, we struggled to get cooperation to some of other areas because our mandate was not. Now with the presence of the new PC, understanding exactly our mandate, is the one now instructing all the members getting, so we're getting there to other things, and we make sure that with nationals, we try and train things. And as we speak, the determination of national policing policy sitting with the minister. we are also in that process because there is a thinking of taking CPFs to community safety as well, so that they belong to some community safety and leave SAPs to deal with policing issues and arrest and all that things. So before them, that national will be here so that they can get our input to all provinces, especially covering policing needs and priorities of each province. That's what those are the issues that we are dealing with. The last part that you raised, I think I've covered the review, and also it's on the memorandum of understanding as well as the constitution as we are going through. We're anticipating to have finished that by end of September to make sure that we have a new board elected and we come with other new instruction. I think I'm sure it covers. Thank you. So colleagues also want to add.
Thank you, honorable members. In addition, honorable members, the concern that was raised by the honorable members in terms of the findings, the summarized findings on our monitoring and evaluation, we had prepared that presentation, honorable members, but due to time frames, we had to condense the report. But that will be made available to honorable members. Because when we conduct monitoring and evaluation in the police stations, we used a tailor-made tool that is designed at a national level. So we focus on, we respond to the tool as per the tool. But over and above that, we have the follow-up interventions that we do with the SAPS, which is as a result of the census that was done in 2018-2019. So we are making a follow-up in terms of the implementation of our findings, of the gaps of the findings that we made as the department. Honorable chairpersons, honorable members, I hear also the issue of the victim-friendly facilities. Our tool does not talk to the victim-friendly facilities. However, we do check the availability of victim-friendly facilities, and we also check whether they are functional, and we do support them. With the little budget that we have, honorable members, it must be mentioned that we do not have a budget to support the victim-friendly facilities. We mobilize together with SAPS sponsors to assist in improving the services of victim-friendly facilities in the stations. But in the future, honorable members, we can table to you a number of victim-friendly stations with victim-friendly facilities and their status in terms of functionality. I just want to also add, honorable members, on the issues of the non-availability of the targets, of the projection of the targets for third quarter on the youth crime prevention. The reason, honorable members, we are very thin on the ground. It is a fact that in any district, we only have, there are districts where we have only one crime prevention official that is covering all the local municipalities. And it's very difficult for us to actually do our work optimally. But having said that, honorable members, when it comes to some of the programs like the youth crime prevention programs, we target the programs in the first quarter when the youth is going back to school. That is when we visit a lot of schools. So you will see a lot of programs in response to youth programs, youth issues in the first quarter. The second quarter, when we have the youth month, you will have quite a number of programs that we are doing in terms of the youth programs. So as the third quarter, because the majority of schools are finishing their exams, and some are, you know what happened in eThekwini when we had that Mercedes, when there's that pens down. So we do quite a number of programs, but when it comes to the fourth quarter, we don't do much programs. They become demand driven. Not to say that we don't have any programs for the youth, but we allocate them according to the busy quarters. So as the communities in dialogue, honorable members, because of the shortage of our manpower, and we are using our own members now because we don't have sufficient funds to actually outsource the communities in dialogue. We do them ourselves. We put one target so that we don't get penalized if we are not able to actually achieve what we have set ourselves for. We don't want to set a high score, whereas we know that we don't have sufficient resources to cover that target. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you.
Good day, honorable members. Mine is to just respond on the question that was on the volunteers and the UIF. I believe I'm not sure whether the honorable member was talking about the current serving volunteers or the volunteers who had exited. But with regard to the ones who had exited, we managed to finalize the issue of the payments of the UIF. All of them that were serving within the department up to the 31st of March 2020, we submitted them to the Department of Labor, and their payments were processed for the period from 2016 to 2020 when they exited the department. Then the ones who are currently serving in the department, we have started working with the Department of Labor. All of them have been declared. Now we are also finalizing declaring them on the monthly basis. The monies now are also being processed. So in terms of compliance, we are finalized. Our last meeting, our most recent meeting is set for the 28th, where we are meeting with the Department of Labor, so that we can be sure that the monies that we are declaring are actually reflecting the Department of Labor, because the challenge is with us, our volunteers who are paying them in an abnormal way. They claim, then later on they work and submit the claims. So the payments are not running as they would be in a person who is paid automatically. So before we actually pay the amount that the volunteer deserves, we deduct the 1%, and then the department will then add the 1%, and then we send the monies. At the same time, we upload them in the U-filing before the 8th of each month, which is our deadline. Thank you.
Thank you. We finished.
I think, Chair, we've done with the response, except to add that at the next financial year also we'll be conducting census. When conducting census, we visit all the 184 stations in 1 year and check whether. So we will be assessed against that one. So when the customer satisfaction is done. So we say we would have made impact if we surpass the baseline, because we get baseline information for improvement. So I just wanted to add that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Looks like the budget is a challenge in this department. Right? It looks like there's a big challenge. We expect more from the department, but the budget is less. Yeah, that one has to go hand in hand with our complaints and recommendations, because it involves. This is a very serious department, because it talks to victims of crime, which is the community. Thank you. Now, we've done with this item. We are moving to SAPS now. So you'll do 2, 3, 4, and 5. In number 5, number 5. But I know it's too late now. But I would love it if we included hacking here. I think Commissioner, you know about it. Dog. So you know about the situation in hacking. But I know what to maybe the EU. If you don't have a report now, it's fine. We'll get it next time. Yeah. Then can we get who's doing the presentation? Oh, Dog.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I don't know if you should stand. Considering, Chair, Honorable Chair members, that there's only 4 minutes for you to go for tea and for me to finish this presentation, so I'm going to try and assist.
Chair, we'll extend for you, Dog.
Okay. Yeah, we manage by time now. Chair, we were under impression and were informed that there's a new chairperson, and we thought maybe we might want to put some presentation to give some lecture about the SAPS to the chair. But when we saw the program, we realized no, we can only focus on the presentation that we're tasked to do. Hence, hacking is not part of it. Apologies. We're going to try next time. As you can see, Chair, if you go straight to the next slide, what we wanted to at least try and do is to bring the committee into the picture with regard to the state of policing in the province, in as far as the resources that we have are concerned. Because that's I think influences a lot on what we do as a SAPS, as you can see there, Chair. The SAPS, in terms of the profile, we are policing, in terms of the mid-year population estimate, we are policing over 11.5 million citizens in this province. And we do that with just a little bit over 18,000 police officers. So if you do the maths and you divide the number of personnel of people in our province and the number of personnel we have in the SAPS, and you take the square kilometer area size of the province, it's just going to explain to the Honorable Chair and members the challenge that the SAPS is facing with regard to creating a safer environment as required by the Constitution. What makes our situation worse, Chair, as you can see on the presentation, that our total number of police stations is 84. We do have satellite police stations, 83 of them, and I might just say upfront, not all of them are fully capacitated as we wish as the SAPS, but we do have them. And amongst that, we have some units. We are responsible for policing and securing, as I said, 11.5 million. We do that, whereas we have in our midst in this province a number of schools where learners attend. We have a total number of 30,000 schools, including daycare, which means we have to secure all of them as the police, because there's a lot of crime happening in schools. On top of these numbers of communities that you need to police, 30,000 schools. Incident happens in the school, they ask where was the police. On top of that, we've got higher learning educational facilities, 951 of them, with 496,000 students that are registered. Incident happens at the higher learning institutions, they ask where was the police. On top of the 11.5 million that you need to secure. We do this, Honorable Chair and members, faced with a challenge, and the challenge is regarding other areas that you need to police, and one of them is register liquor outlets. We have in our province 10,448 of them. If we're going to have an incident happening in a liquor outlet, they'll ask, where is the police? It is the 18,000 police officers that must go to all these areas and make sure there's no crime. The big question will be, is it really possible? So this I'm going to highlight and move to the next slide, Chair. Just wanted to put the committee into the picture of the situation we have in the police. What we see on this slide, Chair, is the allocation that we're given in terms of the budget. We are limited the numbers in terms of the budget, that we can only employ X number of people in this province. And as a result, you'll see the gap that sits at about 7% for us to be able to 100% in terms of our personnel. The reality is not enough for the challenges that we have shown in the first line. We have a total, if I can indicate, I'm not sure if you can point a pointer there, right click on the screen for me, please. Then you select a pointer. If you can put a mouse right click, then you'll see the point is going to come up. Yeah, there on the Police Act 19,000, we show Police Act and the other one is PSA. The difference is that we've got two categories of employees in the SAPS. There are those that are trained as police officers, they were uniformed like myself, they are under Police Act. It's a different category of employment, they are governed by different rules. And the others are Public Service Act, those are administrators that are employed under Public Service Act, which is the same in any other department. So we don't necessarily look much on the Public Service Act employees. When we do policing, we look under Police Act. So as you can see, this is what was given to us, 19,000. But as I said, we are just a little bit over 18,000 as we speak. It's not, we still have a lot of others that are sitting at the college. We do hope that maybe with the next budget allocation, there's going to be an increase on numbers. As you can see, if we take the pointer down to the second last bullet, you can see that the allocation that were given last year was a reduction of 4.23% of posts. So the years before, we could employ 857 police officers, but with the recent budget allocation, they said, no, we can't employ that, we must reduce our numbers as police, which means we can't employ that 857 police officers. So instead of growing in numbers, we are coming down, and yet the population side is increasing. So these are some of the challenges that I wanted to portray and just indicate to the panel. Go to the next slide, please. Honorable Chair and members, these are physical resources that we have. As you can see, on the left, top left, is the number of vehicles that we're supposed to have for policing in terms of our plan regarding our personnel. But the actual numbers that we have is 5,892. So there's a difference of 385. This one looks positive, that we've got more cars than we're supposed to have. But the reality is, the more cars than what we're supposed to have comes to the very last picture, vehicles at the garages. 2,102 of these ones are sitting in the garage. And I must say, Honorable Chair, that remains a problem for us. That remains a problem for us because it's got to do with our system of procurement, how we're doing services with the vehicles. There's a contract that was established by Treasury given to West Bank for us to outsource. So we take a police vehicle if it needs to be repaired. We want to fix a tire. We take it to a certain, take it to a garage, or garage take it to another private person, the Boniwe's factory or whatever place to buy tires for us. Or he needs a battery, goes there to buy batteries. Or if it needs to be serviced, it goes to him to service it. It sits there because Mr. Boniwe needs to first get finances to be able to buy parts so they can service a car. He submit a claim, we've got 30 days to pay back. And during that period, he doesn't have money to service another vehicle, so you wait for payment until. So it's a procurement process. It's not about him paying, doing things now, he gets money now. Police of government allows the 30 days, so then it puts a problem to him because he does not have capital to start a business. And banks sometimes don't want to lend them. That's what becomes a bit of a problem. That's why we find a lot of vehicles end up sitting there. For the period, as you can see at the bottom, Chair and honorable members, the vehicles that have been in the garage more than 3 months, 252 vehicles. And I might just say of those 252, there's quite a big percentage we're not going to get back because they were damaged during the floods. They are sitting at private garages and the floods came and the vehicles were damaged and those people are waiting for government to pay them for those damages before they can refund us. So we have vehicles that we know from now that we might as well write them off because we're not going to get them back. But the biggest number still sit at the garages, 1,134 of them for a period of less than 1 month as we are counting to date. It does not necessarily mean they are all going to come out at the end of the month. They might come out next month or they might come out for 1 week and go back in. Part of the challenge we have is corruption within that creates a problem. Move to the next slide, Honorable Chair members. Next slide, please. According to the request, we were told that we must, that was just showing the picture and some of the challenges in terms of the resources we have. But despite that, Honorable Chair, we as the South African Police Management had to come up with a plan to make sure that we can keep the citizens of this province safe. And we did that by coming up with a plan. Before we do the plan, obviously, we are informed by the mandate as per Constitution, which the very first one says we must prevent crime. So the prevention of crime is written in the mandate and given only to the South African Police Service. South African Police Service that is part of the value chain in the criminal justice system, whereas the other departments within the very same criminal justice system don't have this mandate of prevention. Any other departments that we have in government do not have that mandate. It's only the South African Police Service. So the difficulty that we have in prevention of crime is there are many factors that one needs to employ to make sure crime doesn't happen. One of them, employment. One of them, getting the youth active on the streets. They don't wander around, amongst others. And there are many other contributing factors so that we can prevent crime from happening. So we take away hunger, get employment, get the youth active, you prevent crime because then they are engaged. They are not doing crime. So these are some of the things that we have a problem. So ours, while we are doing the other responsibilities of the police, the biggest one for us as a challenge is the very first one that talks about prevention. Next slide, Honorable Chair, will show us the strategy that we have put in place, which is known, we've shared with the committees before, in terms of trying to reduce crime, and the strategy is applied in all districts as we conduct operations from time to time. And you're going to see since last year, beginning of last year, we've been rolling out the strategy. It's going to show on the next slide how the strategy is helping, is been applied and helping us. So click maybe 4 or 5, click again. Last one. Sure. The 5-pillar approach is what we are applying as we are rolling out our strategy in terms of fighting crime, reducing crime, arresting the criminals and sending them to prison with the hope that they're going to come back as good citizens. So we focus it on this by mobilizing all different disciplines of the police in a coordinated effort so they can be able to fight crime. Next slide, please. The interventions that I've summarized, Honorable Chair members, the interventions that we have embarked upon as the police in terms of the crime reduction, which will include us receiving the threats, identify the hotspots, and be able to deploy accordingly. So majority of us, we end up being on the street. We are with you during the day, at night time, I go out to the street just to try and prevent. But mine, I'm not policing the criminals out there. Mostly when I go out with my team at night, I chase police officers because they do more crime than criminals. So that's what we do nowadays in trying to reduce crime. These are some of the things that we apply going forward. Honorable Chair, next slide, please. I must say, Honorable Chair, that the government is spending at least 429 Rand 24 cents to feed someone in prison a day. 429 Rand 24 cents. That's what government is spending to feed someone in prison a day. Now that is the money that we are given the figure by correctional services because we don't feed them, it's correctional service that feeds them. In the year, 15 months, starting April last year until to date, we have arrested a total of 26,000, you can show that the point, 26,173, the total number of people that we have arrested. But unfortunately, it's not all of them that are in prison. Because I'm going to explain this value chain again on the criminal justice system. Ours is to remove those ones off the street because they're doing bad. But unfortunately, they get given bails and so forth. And others, even they are found guilty, they get suspended sentences. Find somebody with a firearm, is found guilty, is given 5 years, but suspended, all of it. So he literally, after getting a sentence, he walk out the door and he smiles and he have a bribe. That's a challenge that we face. So, but the reality is, if government were to keep the 26,000 in prison, in KZN we have beds only for 18,000 prisoners. But the current population, as I was told by correctional service, they are sitting at 23,000. The current population size. So if we're to take 26,000 into prison, these, if I use the 429 rand 24 cents cost per day, it amounts to about 3.5 billion rand that they are spending per year just to feed those ones in prison. If we're to put all of them, it means that figure will go up to about 4 billion rand, roughly. The cost of doing crime to government is big. It's really big if you look at the numbers. But unfortunately, these are the unspoken things most of the time, and I do hope that the Honorable Chair and the members will help us to interrogate this. Next slide will show you the recoveries that we've had. Honorable Chair, there are a lot of guns in this province. Part of it, of the crime that's happening, is because of access to firearms. The question is why there are so many firearms. Almost all of them, they start from being legal firearms. But because they get stolen, or those that carries them, they lose them, they misplace them, they end up in the wrong hands of criminals. But adding on top of that, some of our own law enforcement officials, be it the South African Police Service, be it Metro Police, be it the military, and including your own protectors, your own bodyguard, your own security companies that you employ, they lose these firearms or they lend these firearms to criminals to do crime. We were able to recover quite a number of them in this period, 892 firearms. And I did not put the figure of ammunition. But these 892 firearms are firearms that were taken off the street from criminals that used to belong to legal people. And these are the firearms that are used in committing crime. So each one of them will have killed 2 or 3 or 4 people during the period that we are counting. Hence, our murder rate is this high. But we try to reduce because we try to recover them, and our mission is to search almost every other vehicle that we can with the limited resources we have, because most likely we're going to find a firearm in that car. There are a lot of other dangerous weapons that are recovered. Drugs, I must say, Honorable Chair, they are killing our province. I'm sure you are aware that our border line, both land borders as well as coast line, is quite long. Now, when you sit in Durban and you appreciate the sight that you see in the ocean of the beautiful ships that are parked there, we stress as a police when you see those ships that are docked there. They look nice when they're in Mhlanga, there's a nice view. Business is booming, but for us, law enforcement, we worry. Because when that ship is standing there, day 1, day 2, day 3, waiting to go into the harbor, when the night falls, we do not know what boat comes out of the ship or goes into the ship to collect things. And it says through the middle of the night, and it docks in any strip, any land. You can come in and park next to the sand somewhere at the beach. The truck gets offloaded and they're in the country. So control it, it's a bit of a challenge. It's a bit of a challenge, but we try to engage with our leaders to help us to secure those. A typical example, Honorable Chair, is that the number of containers that get offloaded in the harbor versus the number of containers we are searching. We're not even doing 1% of the volume that comes in. We don't have scanners, so the whole container that is big as maybe 20 meters might come with illicit things inside, drugs, human trafficking, all of it in a container. We're not going to know if we did not get any tip-off. It will just come in and get into a truck, it's on the N3 and goes to Joburg, or it ends up in any warehouse around Durban. That's a reality that we face. Those that we find in the big bust is because we get tip-offs in other countries from abroad that check the container number so-and-so, in the ship number so-and-so, that will have moved from Brazil to China, to Kenya, and to South Africa. It will have stayed for a month before it arrives here with drugs. So we do find them, but there are only few of them. So these are some of the challenges we wanted to show, Honorable Chair. Next slide, please. Honorable Chair, having said that, for the 6th administration, it's important to take note that despite all these challenges that we have, we still register quite a reduced number of crime. South Africans are hungry, they've got nothing to do, therefore they've got more opportunities for them to commit crime, but despite that, it's not all of them that get involved in crime. There's a small group of people that are really terrorizing our society. When you look at the figure over time, government is trying its level best to reduce crime. In 2017, Honorable Chair, we started our crime, all 17 community reported crime that were reporting for the same period. There were 315,000 cases, roughly, that we had with when we started in 2017-2018 financial year. In 2018-2019 financial year, there were more cases registered as the graph goes up. But in 2019 and 2020, the figure went down. That was not because of COVID. It was just because of initiatives that made us to reduce crime. But then COVID came. When COVID came, it helped us because it took away the victim, it kept the victim in the house. It closed down some liquor outlets that contribute in crime. It limited the movement of a criminal. So the opportunities was not there. And because everyone else was locked in house, the few police officers that we had were more visible on the street. And everyone wonders that, but you had more police officers during this because we were the only one on the street. And so therefore you could see us. Release everyone to be back on the street, we disappear. We're still there, but we can't be seen. 2020, we see this low reduction. It is all because of lockdown regulation. That's what helped us. Lockdown regulation is eased, and then we see crime going up again. But fortunately, it still did not surpass the figures of 2019. As we ended up to now, it still has not passed the figure of 2019. So we want to keep it lower, although it's climbing, but we don't want to see it going back to how it was in 2018. That is our plan going forward. Next slide, please. The next slide, Honorable Chair and members, will show the contact crimes. Contact crime is where crime happens, where the human being gets affected directly. They rob you physically. They don't come into your house when you're not there to steal something. They break into your house while you're in the house, and they point you with a gun, they take it. They don't take your vehicle parked alone, but they hijack you of a car. They put you in a boot, or they push you aside and they take a car and they drive with you. That's what we call contact crime. So those type of crimes, including rape, amongst others. When we're monitoring the trend, you'll see, Honorable Chair, that in the year 2020, the blue line, it shows how much of the crime has been registered over the whole year, starting from April ending in March. In 2021, it's a red line. So 2021, because there was no lockdown, the blue is because it was lockdown. As you can see, as the lockdown levels were released, the restrictions were relaxed, crime goes up. The more restriction, the crime goes down. So in 2021, in the red, it was really relaxed. That's why you see the crime moving right on top. This year, when we started below 2021 figures, but we slightly surpassed it in May, but in June, we are also trying to come down again. We use this graph just to monitor how the crime is moving between one year to another year. Next slide will show the horrible one, Honorable Chair, which it's a longer period. As you can see, contact crime in our province is really bad. And what influenced this the most are the crimes that the police cannot really stop. Amongst of them is rape. A big percentage, 90% of it happens indoors, amongst people that know each other. On top of that, it's murders, which are organized, majority of them. It's not by default that people get into a quarrel and they fight and they kill each other. But it's someone who plans that to go and wait there and wait for the Honorable Chair is going to come home at this time so I can shy golf, my busy golf. That's the head. That's what they say in the language on the street. So it's organized crime that happens in our society. Unfortunately, we are still found wanting when it comes to our intelligence collection capacity or capabilities. That's why we see this graph going up like this. Less number of people were killed in 2017 as compared to now. Less number of people were raped as compared to now. So what we see from 2020 going up to 2022 is something we can't lie about it. People open cases and we register it. That's why it's looking like that. The question will always be asked as to who's responsible for reducing this? The Constitution says the police alone, but the reality is, until you interrogate that international, will find the answer. It's not the police alone that is responsible for this. Next slide, please, sir. Honorable Chair, the next last, I guess we're told to present the status in terms of the cases, commercial, political, as well traditional leadership. I know Honorable Chair wanted to know more about Harding in as far as traditional leadership is concerned in the main, and those organized matters that are happening around there. Unfortunately, we could not bring those specific ones. But in terms of the traditional leaders, recording this crime from 2014 today, we met with Contralesa, I think early this week, and they told us that they don't like this terminology of traditional leadership. They want to be called indigenous leadership. So I find it a bit of a challenge. I think the Honourable Committee may need to look at, because it's within the traditional leaders that we believe they're traditional leaders. It looks like there's some tensions. Those that met with us, they made it clear that they are not fully happy with the current leadership that was elected. So which means there's some tensions, and we know so those are the things that may generate into crime, whereas and it's going to be expected the police to prevent it. The only prevention means negotiations, dialogues, and all those type of things. We have to do a lot of those dialogues, it means. Honorable Chair, attacks on traditional leaders that we're recording since 2014 to date include murders, attempted murders, conspiracy to commit murders, and kidnapping. So the total of 47 cases, of which 31 of them are still under investigation. And I must say, investigations on these cases prove to be a bit of a challenge at times, because families have got issues amongst themselves. And then they fight, and we end up seeing murder, and we don't know who's actually behind it. So when you inquire, you're going to be told that so and so is the one who organized the murder. But until we get evidence that's going to be accepted in court, we cannot arrest a person that is known. We take the person as known, we question them, they've got the right, we can't interrogate them like we used to back in the days. We have to respect their rights as well. So interrogate them. If they don't want to talk, they don't talk. They've got the right to remain silent. And even if they did commit murder, we've had cases like those, and we end up in the state. So this is status basically. 14 of these cases are at court, been decided by court, will have effected arrest in some of them. That's why they're in court. Next slide. We show here the high-profile commercial crime cases. I might just say, Honorable Chair, part of what I thought we're going to give some lecture in terms of how we structure it as a police, that commercial crime cases we're talking about is that within the ordinary police station, there's a commercial section that deals with commercial cases, but it's up to a certain threshold of cases, small amount of commercial. Those that are following you at the bank, they take your cards and they steal money from you, and the likes. But the serious ones, which talks about 3 million plus, they go to DPCI. So DPCI figures are not here, and the colonel, the colleague, will be able to talk to them, because I don't think they prepared a presentation on that. I think their invitation only said they must explain their mandate only. So, but I said to her, maybe beside the mandate alone, just maybe prepare some cases that we can be able to brief the committee. But this is what the normal detective unit in the police is investigating for the same period, 2018 to date. There's only 4 cases that are commercial cases that are reported where people were frauded of their money. That is not that much, which are high profile. We are only talking about high profile cases on these ones. There's a status of them. You can see 4 cases, 3 of them already in court, which means they are already suspects on that. Only 1 is still under investigation. Next slide. This slide, Honorable Chair and the members, I'm sure the whole committee would appreciate to see this one. The president in 2018 announced that there should be extra measures that are going to be embarked upon for us to be able to deal with political violence in the province. And that's what you see on this slide. We established a team back then in 2018. I was here acting when I formed that team, and that team has still been working since then. And they had a total of is it 100 you can read for me on the right of the screen, it disappears. Top right, what's that in blue?
286.
Yeah, 286 cases that they were investigating. And this is a breakdown of where are all these cases. And you can see of that total number of those cases, 56 of them were murders, meaning 56 politicians were killed as a result of being politicians. This is political related. I hate you because you are taking my position. I want to be a councillor, and you decide to get more votes, so therefore I kill you, so that I become number one in the list. So these, amongst others, attempted and conspiracies and the likes. But despite that, Honourable Chair and members, there are other parallel cases that the team is investigating. Those cases came about when they find a hitman that is also involved in other cases that are not political, either taxis or drugs or any other robberies, cash in transit heist and so forth. So we group all those cases and we give it to the team because the same criminal will have been involved in killing a politician, and though is also involved in other cases. So for us to get a serious conviction on the criminal, we group all those cases together so that we can take them to the same court. But there are also other ad hoc cases that you can see that the team is investigating. So those are the cases that from time to time we assign it to the political task team and say, take this case and investigate. And amongst them is what we have picked up as a trend, Honourable Chair and members, that in terms of our Farm Control Act, we issue a firearm. It's the act. Remember, the police job is to enforce the act, not to write the act. The act says you have a right to apply for firearm. Once you're issued with the firearm, you must have passed a competency to carry that firearm, and you must have a safe storage for that firearm. So the police will come to your house and check you have a safe. Yes, you have a safe. Therefore, you can keep that firearm. They issue a license. So you have a license. If you die, that is your firearm. Should you die, that is your estate. So it goes to your spouse or whoever you nominated to take ownership of the farm. So if you die, there will be executor of that estate. The executor will come and take all this estate. The system, fortunately, of Home Affairs, as soon as the docket is the debt is registered, we get a notification from the police in the head office that so-and-so has got a firearm and is no more and he lives at this address. So we communicate that from head office to the province to that station, for the station to go to the house to come and collect that firearm and keep it safe in the police station or alternatively at the gunsmith, pending the finalization of the execution of the estate. That's what the law says we must do. But when we arrive at the place, we don't find the firearm. The firearm is taken by the child of the deceased, your child. I'm sorry to report this, Chair, but the death in the tavern in Presley, the boy that killed, uses the firearm that belonged to his father and whose father was late. And he first killed his brother before he went to the tavern. So that's a firearm that was licensed, which we did not locate because he stole it from the safe and he kept it somewhere safe. And he used it first to kill his brother. He got arrested, his family, his mother bailed him out, and the mother was present during the murder, and they decided to protect him until there was no evidence because the firearm was hidden. Now that we found him again this time around, he confessed, he told us that I was arrested, same fire, but I was taken out, by the very same parents, and he kills again. But this is a challenge that we have. When we are starting these ad hoc cases, because we are trying to deal with things like that, what we've discovered, Honourable Chair, is that there are some bogus gunsmith or genuine gunsmith who work with our own members that are responsible for firearm enforcement. They get this information that so-and-so owns a firearm at that address and it's no more. They tip these gunsmiths, they go there because the act allows this gunsmith to also keep those farms safe. So they go to these individuals and they take the firearm and they keep it with them. So when we arrive there, we don't find that firearm because it's taken by the gunsmith. But there's no record that says taken by gunsmith. They just know that it was taken by gunsmith. So we've been investigating these gunsmiths until we discovered there's one gunsmith called Adams and Adams, of which is a father and the son, and the son is a police officer. And they've collected all of these firearms, and they've got a gunsmith, and we found about 45 of these firearms in their safes that belong to the deceased. So this is just about one of the weaknesses in the system in terms of legislation, as one challenge that we have. So we take some of these dockets and because we found these, and amongst others, security companies that also loan their firearms for people to go and commit crime. And we then take those cases and put them to this team to investigate, amongst others. But Honorable Chair, having the team deployed, next slide, will indicate the number of suspects that we've arrested. As you can see, ever since the team started, 319. Unfortunately, not all of them are in custody except 77. There's quite a number of them that are out on bail. As you can see, 46. Don't ask me now, Honorable Chair, those that are out on bail, whether are they complying with bail conditions or not. I can safely tell you now that quite a number of them, they get bail and they go out there because the law allows them that we must present, the NPA must give it to them as a defense, what we're going to present in court, including the evidence we have against them, so they can prepare a defense. So if they see that amongst these, there's someone who was a witness in the house when the murder happened, it most likely is a family member. They might not know who the person is. So as they go out on bail, they go to that family and they discover who might have been around this place, and they shoot and they kill them. And when that person appears in court, there's no more witness, the case falls flat. It is unfortunate. You can't surprise them in court and say you committed crime by doing this, and if they deny it and you produce evidence there, the lawyers will say, no, we did not tell us about this, you're ambushing us. Give us time to go and prepare for this new evidence you're bringing. And the court grants them that. It's a constitutional right that they have. So as they're out on bail, they got more problem for us. But there's nothing we can do, it's their right. They are on these other parallel cases that I spoke about, is additional number of suspects. As I said, 110 of them, 144. So you can see quite a number of people that were arrested since the formation of this team, the political task team to investigate these cases. Now the question is, have we seen any stability ever since the team came into this province? The answer is yes. If you see the next slide, we'll show you that the problems that we had in the province were only mainly in this region, political. Unfortunately, eThekwini contributed the most as a region. I'm sure you recall the Janga incidents and all these other parts of eThekwini district. But in other districts that we've highlighted here, the situation is stable. We've arrested a lot of people, and there's no more murders or no more crime happening. There's political mainly in these areas. But we are still stabilizing the eThekwini region. We still have incidents, because the most recent one happened after the local government election, where in Katomena, one politician was appointed as a councillor, or was about to be appointed as a councillor, and he was killed. And the one that we've arrested is the one who eventually got appointed as a councillor, amongst the challenges that we face. He made sure that he kills this one nominated by that political party so that he doesn't stand, so that he can move in and fill the gap. So we're able to arrest him, his hitmen, and the likes. So, but we still have that problem, and we're still trying to stabilize that environment. But majority of them, they feel it very stable. So we could be proud of the work that the team has done thus far. Next slide, please. Honorable Chair, this is in closing. I know you're a bit hungry now. I've run over my time. This is about our biggest challenge. As I say, we need to prevent crime so that we can get rid of hunger amongst our communities. We currently have a total of, as KZN, we have a total of 1,812 students that are sitting at the college. 1,812 students that are currently at the college. We are hoping to get those students latest December, coming out of the college. Honorable Chair, the disturbing thing is that, as positive as it might look, that we're going to be getting an addition of 1,800 police officers, brand new police officers, into the police. But on quarterly basis, we lose about 250 of them. So by the time these ones come out of the college, end of the year, that will be, I think, a third quarter of the year, we probably will have lost about 700 of them that are out of the system. So when these ones come in to fill the gap, it's not going to be 100% a gap that's going to be occupied. So we might as well calculate that we're actually going to be gaining 1,000, not 1,800. Because 800 will have already gone, so we are replacing them. Problems for us on that is our age. There's quite a number of, I think when we stop training, we forget that those that are already insisting they're growing old. 2019 or 2020, we had lockdown, we shut down training. We lost an opportunity of putting in 10,000 plus police officers into the system. And we had to start again We had to struggle again to start the training last year, so which means in 2 years we should have taken 7,000 first year, 7,000 second year. We lost 14,000. Opportunity to take 14,000 to the system, but we've been losing. We've been losing through COVID, natural causes, deaths, murders, and resignation and retirement. So we've been losing quite a lot of police officers during the period, but we have not received anything back. So as we are getting these 1,812, we are receiving them, whereas in these past 2 years, we've lost over 2,000. So these ones are not going to close the gap of 2,000. The ones we are leaving every quarter from now until December, 800, so which means this 1,812 won't even make a difference of what we were in 2019. They won't even fill that gap. That's a challenge that we have. We've taken more than what we could chew this time around. We took 10,000 students. We have a capacity for 5,000. That's why we had to go to the military to use their facility. And we still have more challenges on that. But I might just say, Honorable Chair members, we do our best to recruit them. We take them through psychometric tests, and we do all sorts of tests that we can. But we still sit with quite a number of bad ones at the college as we speak. We are arresting some of them still at the college that are there training, and yet they've got bad things they were doing at home that they managed to get through the system that we could not get. It just shows the challenge we have in our society, that we are recruiting from the bad society and want to make them good cops. They just become bad cops. So there's something really big that needs to be done that goes beyond what the SCPS alone can do. Next slide, please. Honorable Chair members, this is a re-enlistment. Those are the police officers that we had employed. They resigned. We created an opportunity for them. Those that want to come back, we receive applications, and we took them through the process, and we hope those successful will come in. These are experienced members. Some of them are detectives and so forth that are still within the age that we can take them, that wants to come back into the service. So we've created an opportunity. Next slide. Honorable Chair and members, this, if it's not shocking to you, I wouldn't understand then why. Something has to be done. Honorable Chair, last month we advertised to recruit, the SAPS sent out an advert to recruit 5,000 police officers. We envisage to take 5,000 to the college next year. So we sent out an advert, national, for 5,000. There's an indication that KZN might get only 600 allocation from the spot of 500. I mean, we are competing amongst 9 provinces. Honorable Chair and members, to date, after the closing date, we received 125,000 applications. All of them have got matric minimum, which means they pass, they qualify to get into the police. All of them are done in school. 50+% of those are graduates from university. If we are only going to be allocated 600, that means we're going to take 600 from 125,000. So there's going to be, is indication 125,000 of kids out there unemployed. They're looking for a job. They're so desperate that they even want to join the police themselves. Although they went to university to study very high level education with the hope that they will sit in nice eco offices, but they end up having to opt to join the police so they can chase criminals on the street. They don't necessarily have a love for it. If we take them, they don't necessarily have a love for this job. They don't like wearing boots. They want to live the life they want to live, but they have no choice, might as well apply and join the police. That is a reality of our society. And we have to prevent crime, amongst others. I'm sorry, Honorable Chair, I hope you're not going to lose appetite. We are coming to the end. Next slide, please. Honorable Chair, we've been told that we must indicate what we are doing in terms of reduction of crime at these 3 police stations, but actually 4. They included a Mangwe. I don't know what was the reason for that. Perhaps amongst the committee, there was an interest of a Mangwe. Maybe, Honorable Chair, if we receive the heading, will have included it. So which means maybe the programmers that decided the program decided not to include it. Honorable Chair, we try to indicate that these 3 stations we have serious problems on them in terms of the population size. We have serious problem in terms of the unemployment that happens in those areas, amongst others. What we've done is just trying to, well, the pie chart of ours, because we're doing it maybe in the rush, we might not necessarily be clear on the left on the numbers, but Amangwe, majority of the crime that happens at Amangwe, we don't necessarily have much of the murders there, but we have a lot of stock theft that's been happening. So we've been analyzing as to what are the causes of these conflicts at Amangwe. And in some of them, we don't necessarily know, because Amangwe, they are involved in dagga business. So this dagga comes from the mountain, it gets exchanged, and others give firearms for the pay of the dagga, and others give livestock, they steal livestock and they give it to the Lesotho people, and the Lesotho people bring dagga to them. So it's a kind of organized thing that involves dagga and firearms and livestock in the main, in around the area. But when we see murders happening, you end up not knowing what is the cause. We've arrested some gangs there, I must say, that are operating in those areas, carrying firearms. I think the last group was arrested last week, carrying firearms and terrorizing communities in that area. So we've kind of stabilized the murder rates as it used to be before. It's no longer the same as it was, because we managed to take those out of the street. Fortunately, some of those bad gangs try to engage the police and Basala Bonapengundle. So it helps us, because then there's less trouble on the streets of Famang. But this is basically what we could see amongst the murders that are happening as a result of witchcraft. I think it's the only station policing area, you know, that people were, someone walked into a police station and said, I'm tired of eating people, because they chop and cook and eat. In reality, not in drama now, not a movie thing, but in real life, that's what's happening at the moment. So it just says to you there's some more problem issues that are there. I mean, the taxi violence in the main that is happening, most of the people that are getting killed, they actually operate in Gauteng, because they've got taxis in Gauteng, but they follow each other and they kill each other at Amangwe most of the time. So these are some of the challenges that we experience as we see Amangwe. But in terms of crime stats of the police station, the crime is drastically reduced. Next slide. Next slide will show us the Mlazi. What is the real problem at Mlazi? As we do our analysis, there are a lot of crime that's happening at Mlazi, and amongst others, drugs are contributing the main. But drugs are not necessarily the one that kills people. It's competition that comes as a result of the drug trade. So, but when you come and you get interviews and you ask, when you want to take a statement at the police, you find a person dead, you ask what happened, the story you get there doesn't necessarily say drugs. It will say so-and-so came looking for so-and-so and he shot and killed him. And it's perceived as if they are fighting over something else. But the reality could be maybe drug related. There's quite a lot of robberies that are happening in the area. And you know, we also have some incidents of taxis, but the taxi wars that are happening at Mlazi, I must say, honorable chair members, it's not necessarily that it's taxi people that are operating at Mlazi. It's fights of the South Coast that ends up at Mlazi. The murders happen, but when we follow the investigation, we discover that it's battles that are coming from the South Coast and they kill each other on this side, not in the South Coast. But these are some of the things that we've analyzed in terms of the murders. There's quite a number of them, 488. We don't want to see many murders in Mlazi. We want to see the reduction. The next one, police station, should be Inanda or Plesley. We've done a lot in Plesley in terms of reduction of crime as well. The motive analysis, you know, we still, majority of them are unknown, but arguments and revenge and robberies, they lead in terms of the causes of what caused murders in places like. And I must say again, Honorable Chair, when you look at the crime stats, murders in places like, or crime in general in places has gone down. It's just a pity when the tavern shooting happens, it happens under policing of places like, and then it makes the news. I must say, I think a day after that, that's what Honorable Chair is talking about. Almost a weekend after the shooting of Plesler, there was also another shooting, and dead 2 people were killed at Tading. That's what the Honorable Chair is talking about, at the tavern as well. It just, the media didn't go there, that's why they didn't make news. And at the same time, another 3 were shot at Inchang, similar circumstances, but the news didn't talk about it. So it then Plesler gets to be on the news most of the time because it had a bad record before. And I must say, Honorable Chair, the reason why the reduction of crime in places there was achieved in the main is because the group that was terrorizing Abbas Bisiban, the Mfundis pastor, who was a leader. He formed a group and he started recruiting all these youngsters. They became a team because he was not successful politically, and he decided to become a criminal. So he recruited quite a lot of them, and they were just terrorizing everyone around places there and the surroundings, raping and killing. That's what they were doing. Rape, hijack, kill, rape, hijack, kill. That was their way of terrorizing. Until such time that he got arrested. When he was in prison, he killed more people while in prison than outside, because of the rights of access to phones and all these things, so he could organize hits to anyone. And he started growing his profile inside prison because he started doing hits on behalf of other criminals that still has to go to court for cases. And he asked them, can I sort out your case? Who's your witness? And he said, the person will say, so and so is the witness. He phones his gang to go and kill that witness. And this one goes to court, the case struck off the road because there's no more witness. And he walks free, which means he owes this Fundis inside prison. So that's how he grew his profile, and the murders became a norm. So we're fortunately able to resolve a lot of them because quite a number of, including the Mfundisi, died. The pastor died during the police shootout with him in a house somewhere there, where a high-profile politician rented them a house immediately after that jail escape they did, the 45 of them. Some politician rented the house for them. So we are still busy with those investigations. Hopefully, we'll be taking down the politician very soon, because it's been behind this feeding these gangs. So we're able to arrest, and most of them were killed. But there's quite a few of them that we're able to send to prison. Because we're worried about this, there's only one prison, Honorable Chair, that we can trust in South Africa thus far, and that is in Kokstad. You send a person in Kokstad, he only becomes a friend with a cockroach that he finds because there's no visitors. And he doesn't see the sun. And that's a beautiful part of it, because once they get lonely and they start talking. We only get to know that the politician and the businessman was financing their operations because they're talking. So they're even talking about cases we didn't know. Some shooting of taxi people around Escort and many other places. Your Doozy shooting that we're trading a lot on TV in Maritzburg, the Doozy Med, all those shootings, we became aware of all those because they're confessing on them. They take us to firearms, check firearms, check of ballistic, we confirm it's a right firearm. So we've been successful in places as a result of neutralizing that gang. But not all of them are gone, they're still there, they're still hanging around. Next slide, sir, please. The last one, Inanda. I need not to explain the environmental design of Inanda. But what we see a lot of these cases happening at Inanda is within the drinking spots. People are sitting, relaxing and drinking, and somebody comes by and he shoots them and he goes away. So you can't blame a drinking spot as much, but they become vulnerable because they're there in the dark. And the person comes and it becomes an easy target. If you want your target, wait for them to go to a drinking spot. When they're sitting there drinking, you shoot and you kill them. There's a challenge that we see around Inanda, when in as far as matters are concerned in the main. Next slide will be just to indicate the things that we've done in all these 4 stations to reduce crime. There's been extra deployment from the head office in places like Etamangwe, in Nanda and Mlas. We've deployed extra police officers from head office, and we also deploy extra police officers from the provincial office. So there's extra forces that are deployed in this station. That's why we see some reduction of crime. Although the volume is still high, but we're seeing the positive going forward. I think, Honorable Chair, that would be almost the end. Last slide. Yeah, this is a continuation of it. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, I think it ends there, Honorable Chair. So I'm going to leave it there, Chair, without adding much on it. Yeah, so the challenge is, I'm sure when we're answering questions, we'll be able to engage. But in closing, Chair, I wanted just to indicate that the causes of crime are this inactive youth, unemployment rate, poverty or hunger that we see in our society. We try to engage with the communities by arranging a crime summit, which was conducted in this beginning of the financial year. I think it was in May at the Oliver. Was it June? June 3 and 4. Yeah, June at Oliver Convention Center. But I must just say the disappointment was the attendance from other government departments, especially in the province. It was not good. I can count the number of HODs that were there. I don't know if you've seen. there wasn't that much interest from government itself to be part of it. Private sector, yes, were there. Mr. Konio and others that are directly involved in crime were there, but we just did not have that much positive attendance from other government departments. But we're going to see those resolutions taken there. Hopefully, they're going to help us shape things going forward. Honorable Chair, criminal justice system remains a problem. There's SAPS, there's NPA, there's judiciary, and there's correctional service involved. We are dealing with two clients. It's a criminal and the victim. The victim, we're only interested in the victim for a victim-friendly facility so that he can help us to tell us who did this. After we collect that information, we put the docket, we send it to NPA. We have a successful conviction, we dump the victim. We don't forget about the victim. He goes up and he suffers on his own. But the criminal, after we put him through the system, we send him to prison. In prison, we feed that criminal 429 rands a day. We force him to study. We even make news about graduation at the university and in prison. We give all that we can to look after billions of rand, to look after this person who killed someone. And on successful being disciplined in prison, he gets given parole. He's back into society. Arrives here, there's no employment. And it's a vicious cycle, do crime again, he goes back. So as a police, we send in, the other departments are not interested to keep in. That's why the courts will not sentence somebody to find with a handful of drugs. They will not arrest him, they will send him to prison. They'll find him guilty, but not in prison. That's what we know as the police. We arrest, you have drugs that are feeding 10 kids at school, you won't end in prison. You will be found guilty, but not to be prison. So these are things that I will hope that the leadership will assist us going forward in order to solve our challenges. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Lieutenant General. I think Now, thank you for the detailed presentation in a short time. No, it did very well. He did very well in a short space of time. Thank you very much, but it's really painful. Your presentation is very painful, General, because you see, if you look at that 125,000, now you can compare some of the, I'm saying some of the police officers that you have. Is people are not interested in police in action because of that. As you are saying, 50% is graduates, and obviously some of them will get the job and be police when they don't want. Now, it's really a challenge. This unemployment, unfortunately, the rate is going up of unemployment, unfortunately. So you can see with that challenge you are talking about, General, I don't think it's going to be fixed soon. It's a painful report when you, General, I'm not sure if you'll wait for questions there or you can sit down. Yeah. But the boys are okay. So I'll give members to comment, but really, I know some of the things the General was mentioning. It's a reality. It's a reality because even if you talk about the person getting parole, the aim of parole was to rehabilitate the person or go back to the community as a well-rehabilitated person, but no programs. Then a criminal, in fact, you will get more experience in prison, go back more experienced into criminality. It's very painful, General, what you are presenting here. I think members, it's time that we respond to General or even ask for some clarity questions and going forward, but we've got a lot to do going forward as this portfolio and also as government. We've got a lot to do. Manje ngiyamsaba ngoba ngishilo ngathi ngimshiye ngale ngithi ngiyambalekela ngamfica ngaphambili. So uzoba number 1 umpephetwa. Then uSain Mahlobo, umhlonishwa uShenu, uSimango ngala ube ushilo ngale. Yasikanje ngalo kodwa.
Chairperson, we welcome you in the area. When we met before the department arrived, that we will be working with you and will support you, Chair. I just want to make a comment and apologize, Chair, that I joined the presentation as I reported earlier that I had other parliamentary commitment outside with the legal staff of the legislature. I apologize to join a little bit late. But with the report that has been presented, I think we need also to thank the Provincial Commissioner for the presentation, and also this kind of a commitment, I mean a communication continues. I'm saying this because I've been a politician for quite some time, and I know the behavior of the politicians. They can say anything without research. They can make any statement without information. So it is critical that the portfolio committee that is responsible be in a position to know exactly what is going on, so that they will be able to assist not only the police but the government of the day. Because at the end of the day, when the community criticizes the police, they criticize the government of the day. When the provincial commissioner spoke about Coxstad, I was reminded of one cause whom I will not mention. When the police came, there was some kind of a raid in the middle of the night. So Inkosi was sleeping, and they woke up because they were looking for a gun. And then the police got the gun, and they asked the question, where did you get this gun? And Inkosi was innocent. So it sounded as if Abafana is not accepted to the So the police continued. Over and Abafana tell they have been looking for that vehicle for quite some time because it was involved in a haste in Tubatuba. There was that heist that took place in Tubatuba. So make it easy for the police to get information from an innocent man who is involved in crime. That's why he was talking like that. So when I had an intervention, because we goes is a very bomber. Besa njengenkosi laba asingeni enkinga ney'ndlela lezi ey'khona ukuthi umuntu akushonisele kodwa iqiniso lenjengoba linjalo. But in a nutshell, sir, Honorable Chairperson, to me is to thank the presentation, and it helps us, it empowers us to understand exactly what is actually going on outside, because the police are on day-to-day running of Umsebenzi. That is the comment. I have no question, Chairperson. I don't want to listen to what as the interview, to which institution did you or and then the response was, I have no comment. new
Thank you, Chair. I thought I was depressed in the last report. I don't know what my feelings are now. It's actually sad that the PC, I don't know where he finds the motivation, to be honest, to come to work every day. And I don't know where the other officers as well still manage to show up for work every day, considering the reports that we've just received. I think we always knew that this was the vicious cycle, but I think putting it down in this report just makes it much clearer. And I'm not sure if there is actually a solution, if there is no support in terms of, from a national perspective, to try and resolve some of these issues. I will try and raise some of my concerns that I wanted some clarity on, but I also just want to say we must be grateful to the PC in this province, who's always available to take our complaints and calls, and I just want to show appreciation for that, because that is very important, especially when we as politicians are faced with a lot of complaints from people on the ground that come to us for help, and we are lucky to have the PC available to actually try and address that and resolve those matters for us. So I just want to say thank you for that, PC. Just firstly, I want to start off with the last few pages, which is I was actually expecting a more detailed turnaround strategy for especially Nanda, Mlazi, and Kasesla, but I just saw details in terms of the stats. But if we could just dwell into what kind of interventions were actually made and for how long. I know you did say that there has been extra deployment, but is that now a permanent solution? Is that including the issue of visible policing, addressing the issue of searching the liquor outlets and making sure that everything is on board? What about the issue of hotspot areas, the issue of rape that happens, especially in Inanda? If I could just get some more clarity on that, because obviously the next quarter crime stats will be released, and we all will hold you accountable for that based on the interventions that you have raised here. So if we could just have clarity on that. In terms of the vehicles, Chair, this has been an ongoing issue, and we've been going through this as well as a portfolio committee for a while. Even the previous MECs as well have given us the assurance as well as the current MEC that they will address the concerns regarding the issue of the vehicles in garages and the contractor. But we really have not seen any results, and the PC has just confirmed that. And it's not fair for them to be going through these when there could be political interventions that are made to try and resolve it. And it's concerning that I hear that, now some subcontractor is now allocated to fix or change a tire or fix a vehicle, not knowing whether actually a government vehicle is given the proper value or maintenance that it should be given from a professional environment. As much as you want to create jobs, there are certain things you don't mess around with. And I think those vehicles are part of it. And that's why we have this constant problem where you do get a vehicle out and then it's back again in the garage. And I think that needs to be reviewed in terms of the process, how that is actually done. And there must be some sort of assessing companies before you even subcontract them to fix a simple thing like vehicles as well. Actually, vehicles are not a simple thing to fix. Chair, the Department of Community Safety every year allocates volunteers, and I'm just trying to find out what is the link between the volunteers that collect a stipend from the department to SAPS, because the idea is that they should work hand in hand with SAPS to try and assist in reducing crime. So I just want to see what kind of linkage is happening now, because we know that a stipend is being paid, the department is paying them, but what are we really getting out? Are they giving SAPS that support base to try and assist? And has there been some sort of an analysis that has been compared to their interventions or their employment to come to the department. Chair, I haven't heard anything about specialized units. I know we've got issues of especially drugs in most of the key areas, actually where there is high crime and where you see our stations in the top 30 in the country. It also links in with drugs, and there's a high rate of dealers trying to take each other out, so that also increases the murder rate. But I know there were specialized units, and in certain areas they have been removed. Where are we with that at the moment? Is there a review to try and reintegrate them back? Because there really needs to be something more strong that's done to try and reduce that. I know we can't control the issue about the sea and air and the borders, or there is very limited things that you can do, but I think it starts in the communities as well. So if we can get some sort of feedback on that. I also just want to touch on the backlog of cases. I mean, we sit here all the time. We know that the detectives have a huge number of cases that are at a huge backlog. What interventions are being made to try and reduce the number of cases that are given per detective, but at the same time ensuring that there's no delay in a case that's going to court? Because, I mean, a case can be sitting at the detective, you can open it today, but you'll only hear something in 2 to 3 years, and by then, you know, it's too late, it's too far gone. So if we can just get some interventions that are being made in that respect, as well as, Chair, you know, a simple thing like the charge office. And I'm not sure if the PC has addressed it or will be addressing this. It shouldn't be SAP's officers actually doing affidavits. It's not their job to do that. They should be out on the streets. And in fact, in most cases, there is a language barrier as well, in terms of taking down cases, writing down affidavits. And there's a major disconnect, and that's why when the case is received by the detective, it actually cannot even go any further. And that's why you see some people would rather do an affidavit and go to the station and just have it commissioned than rather going to the police station and having it and starting from scratch there. Because in some cases, it is quite a frustrating process as well. And maybe an intervention might be to get in contact with paralegals. I mean, there's a lot out there that are also unemployed, that are still going through the processes as well, that could also do some in-service training or assistance to provide some assistance on a volunteer basis, maybe, to SAPs. It could be some sort of in-training that they could be doing. And that might assist because you're getting somebody from a legal background that's trying to assist you to try and do the job better. So just my 2 cents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
As Bongihlalo, and welcome the reports as presented. Chair, for me, in the 80, I think we must accept in the OT there is a road we can't do much with the current crop within the police service. But is there something we're doing with the new recruits? Even it means that you put a special cause on societal values we are trying to inculcate. Because if you break your training, you are bringing him into the system as an 18-year-old. But this on the emotion again for the next 20, 30 years. My police are only the food. We are having the same problem now in the but and their programs are put in place as part of their training. At the beginning, when you're training, I level to train to bowler, your physical fitness and understanding the laws. Because it's one thing I think as government you have left on. For people to understand what is the meaning of being a patriot and serving your society. That being in a public service and calling is not just savings because rate of finally teaching nursing. Those professions they demand something extra from you as an individual. Beyond that, which you are unemployed and from savings, they need that extra from you. Would you commit yourself in committing to such? The second one, you know, I remember it was like Newcastle. I think Kono must introduce another college from CPF and local subs than if you are my children, no matter last one, where are we now? Are we still managing? Because it lapses, then in the space of use again, it comes up again. It's like a one window or that one that load to a chemical to heal people with food. It's like it's a problem we're feeling to nip in the bud. But I think in the past few months again, issues came up when there were issues I think the previous years on the same issue of the campus. And these are more small kids, 12, 13-year-old, some of them. They'll run amok into society and because if you fail to protect people at that level as the state, your authority is finished. They will say, as now, men see that because this can happen daily, openly, in one only ending. We've got no control on it. It's like every time we react, when it has happened, then us being proactive in dealing with it. It's the same with the issue of the July unrest. You see, one of the issues raised by a panel appointed by the president was the challenge of the information gathering capacity within the security cluster. Whether it's net joint, prof joint, are those structures sitting as expected, in particular in the province on national national to coordinate amongst the security cluster proactively how you deal and preempt these issues. Because in most instances, like you are caught by surprise and subs in the province of these instances. We are caught by surprise by the taxi industry blocking the city in Devon, inner city. You are caught by surprise the trucks in Balam, in the Moy River. You can count the number of instances. The things we know, there are these flashpoints, but every time they caught us by surprise, to me, looking at the distance, and I'm not in the service, so I might not be familiar with some of the things, but as I observe, to me, it says like we're always reacting on these issues than us being proactively able to deal with these matters. The last one, Chair, you know, part of your problem in KZN, which I think generations to come will blame us on, is our failure to use illegal firearms. Whether from the era of political violence up until now, the province was the highest rate of illicit firearms. And we're not seeming to be turning the corner in trying to make that back. I'm saying this because July unrest, I think there was about 1.5 million rounds. I think to look at their coordinates, it was 15. Those were new ones. Some are illegal floating around. I remember that case was with DPCI at some point. I heard someone saying she's from DPCI. Have we been able to reach some point of conclusivity on that matter? Either finding half of those, because if you observe that it told you that those people knew in advance that that container is somewhere, has got so many ammunition. It was not just an ordinary looting. To me, as an ordinary citizen, ammunition and this is a taller so and it's not yet registered, so you can do anything with it after that. have we been able to manage to crack that case? If not, what does it say about our capacity as a state in dealing with some of these matters? Because it added on an extra load of years in the province. So these are the things I'm saying. While we applaud the effort to undertake in all different levels, but I still feel that we can do more than what we are doing. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Can we suggest to whoever wants to have tea? I don't see us big enough tea. We can just walk there and have tea. Yabona malunga lokwesithuma ngawane ukuzithi manje ngala kusukumile. Cela amakhono ofisa ukubuka uzithi ayibona. Bona ngesambe sonke mina kanye ngayibona mhlawumbe. Cela kanye. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. I'm going to be short, Chair. You know, PC, at some stage, I was in charge of political office bearer as a chair in municipality. I worked there for many years. I remember when the provincial head of SARS came to see us in the office, only to discover that he brought a number of other people who were idling around in the car park, and they were taking registration numbers of our vehicles because there was a concern that municipal employees are driving vehicles of high value, but some of us, our salaries were not matching our lifestyles. Which was true. I am saying, no, I was fine. I was a senior manager, so I was fine. I've always been a BMW person. Even now I'm driving a BMW, so I was fine. I am saying, Chair, the lifestyle of some of the police officers, I'm happy that Police Commissioner, you are saying you are chasing police out there. Many of our problems are exacerbated by unfaithful police officers who are conniving with wrongdoers, especially in the proliferation of drugs. I was born in Amber, Hillcrest. I grew up there. You may have heard there have been killings in the recent past. I'm worried, Provincial Commissioner, that we are becoming a lawless society in such a way that there are police officers who are worshipping criminals just because they have money from drugs. And these drug lords are becoming role models for young people. People who have never been, some of them are dropouts from Standard 5, but they drive cars that I would only dream of. They stay in estates that are so expensive just because these drugs are transported by police officers. You raise the issue of the act as an impediment, where you arrest, you send the matter for prosecution, the person get prosecuted and sentenced, but for whatever reason, at times you must disclose within the framework of the law evidence that you have. What do you suggest we need to do? Remember, part of our work is lawmaking. As a solution, what would you suggest we do? Obviously working with our peers at international level, because we can't just sit here and cry there's a problem, it's a problem. What do we do to resolve it in terms of the legal prescripts? Because we are here as lawmakers, and if there is a problem, what is it that we would, or rather you would advise, because laws are generated as a result of responding to a problem or advancing a particular cause. You know, I also want to find out, Commissioner, there have been a number of special investigation units proclamations by the president in the province. I'm not sure whether when do these cases come to the police for preparation for court, or the SIU take the matters to courts themselves. In the midst of that confusion in my mind, because I really don't know. I cannot claim to be knowing what is the process when SIU comes with a outcome or recommendation. Are there any SIU recommendations in the recent past where matters have come for your docket preparation, perhaps to NPA and to the court? Then lastly, for me, or the last two, the issue of attack on malls. I frequent Westwood Mall a lot. I don't want you to guess where do I reside, but you know the attack on malls, on jewelry shops. I know it's not a task of police officers to guard malls, but it becoming a threat to society because they carry high caliber firearms, and ordinary citizens becomes vulnerable. What is it that you can do to at least lessen the threat of ordinary people who go to these malls for shopping as part of growing our economy, but these sectors of economies are attacked? The issue of vehicles in workshops. Of late, there is this district development model. I don't know how the police officers get to be consumed or somehow be part of this, because I just don't understand this. It's a tender, yes, at a national level. Police are a national competence, we accept that. But at the end of the day, police there's nothing called national. Police works in wards, they work in confined environments and all of that. When a police vehicle from Mtubatuba or Melega, border or any IFA, it took 3 months, gearbox. Obviously, we understand some of the driving of the police, sometimes not up to scratch. But why gearbox in the Tata 1 week, it takes 3 months or 1,000 days? There are municipalities with workshops. Can't we have systems where in the eThekwini area, KwaMasipala was eThekwini, it's a huge municipality, they have their own workshops. If the vehicle needs a tire in Modema Police, PC approves, you will have your own person to go and really see whether your motor can be tire better. Then in a day, a tire is fixed. I don't understand why police must suffer because there are no vehicles. If your candle, amalites, but you have auto electricians all over. Being practical, I know I'm a police, it's command and control, but our state of lives demands alterations sometimes to say, for the sake of service delivery, because it's a service to protect us. It's a service demanded by the Constitution. Yes, Amapoisa will come tomorrow just because they could not get means to come and get statements while it is still fresh, there's still evidence, and chase after those people. So I am saying, what is it again that you think as lawmakers, not necessarily interfering with the administrative processes, but is for the sake of service delivery? Because at the end of the day, we are going to be judged as politicians as not being effective. When police are not effective, it's us who are not enabling police to be effective as politicians. What is it legally that we need to do to empower you to lessen the burden of red tape? The president was speaking of cutting the red tape in terms of energy, just because it has become a crisis. Has our policy come to a state of a crisis? If yes, what is it that you suggest we need to do? I'm not necessarily putting you on the spotlight, but because you're a police officer, I've never been even a security guard, I don't know policy, when does it start and end? So all that I'm saying, can you advise us so that when we take decisions, are decisions that are informed by an expert? Thank you.
No, thanks, Chairperson. Sengizoba mfishane because ozabutho abaningi bakhavile. But oqala ukuthi Ndonga, we thank you for your presentation, your frankness, because izinto ezihluphe when people do presentation uzama ukukhavara lapha but because awusizi but into eshukile njengoba I think kuhle kwekade emhlophe ehlumile, that's assistance because sazi ukuthi yini esibhekene. I agree with Uzawethu Msheni because okunye really as politicians we are not mechanism policies. Really I think we need to do this investigation so that it's sikwazi ukwenza umsebenzi wamaphoyisa kuphela. Having said that, Ndonga, umuntu uyayizwa issue yes, motor and so forth. But honestly, Nani, I think finally assisted to your members. You know, I think everything to volunteer there's Newcastle, a corner department. Within 2 months, the motor so much in the 60s. You know, that thing you would see it took many, you know. In time like I you know, in motor within a year, it's just far as it doesn't go. I think something needs to be done. Also to was easy to as if Baba was 7, but what you do government is you don't care. I don't think it's so. I would say that I'm not going to be known. Once a soon, never get in go more. Ye need also don't judge on because actually because more feeling than what you come out to have for the fridge you can't try to 20 to and go. What is man said ye also what is your view as police? Because let us see people are about space back is a book one as a what is now what you call escape and what where expect the number better to present themselves. What is your view as police? It sometimes happen, but it's to talk about it and so forth. I know, but I'm just asking, what's your view as a police? Woman, because really,
I thank you.
Greetings once again. My first question and comment was on what Honorable Msheni spoke on. I'm getting issue, but thank you for educating us. Yama affidavits, Amaphoyisa versus Umsolwa. The question I've always had, is must be evidence and actually no. So today you actually made it clear. Second question is that there is a concern access being denied to a police station. Because if we know who acting HOD spoke to it earlier, which there was that resistance. We also get it. Some of our researcher in trying to do the work, resistance, where does it come from? Who gives that instruction? And that includes us as well, ngoba nathi singenza i-oversight uthola ukuthi ukhona ukuvinjwa okukhona. Please talk to it. And then okwesithathu, the issue of fleet vehicles, Honorable Hussein spoke to it, the turnaround time, but ngifuna ukukhuluma kakhulu about vehicles asuke esene mileage enkulu. Masikhuluma ngawo bathophele principles, kukhona ethi value for money. So I always ask myself, if the vehicle is at 400,000, 500,000 kilometers, is there value for money ukuthi ihleli laphaya ilindele ukukhandwa? Mhlawumbe ungasitshela ukuthi i-process yenu yokudisposa lezi mpahla ey'fana nalezo ukuhamba kanjani? And then number 4, yes. I was a bit disappointed when I hear the attendance was not as good. We summit, crime summit that happened in, I think, the first week of June, because I would understand, especially in the killing of politicians and traditional leaders. Let me focus on the traditional leaders. There will be some collaboration of some sort between department because UCOCTA will be in a position to furnish you with the information, because traditional leaders so they are the ones abasuke bene information abangakwazi ukuyifurnisha. So we are disappointed ukuthi mhlambe amanye government departments were not part of. And then lastly, on your last slide of your police stations, Umlazi, Inanda, your places le Amangwe, ngifuna challenge kancane in a lack of a better word, ukuthi ake uthi ukusondela. In actual fact, the killings are very high kulezo indawo. Let me talk about ihadi umhlonishwa ekhulunywa ngayo. There is a community lapho isizwe to Qiniselani Manyuso. The problem there started with Ibamba Bukhosi being abducted. Nanamhlanje akazatholakala. I don't know if you know about it. But then after that, people are killed almost every day. As we speak, kukhona nje acting principal kwisibongo esifanayo uNgcobo kade leader yesathu is been killed. Kukhona umndeni wenduna last week uhlaseliwe, induna ingekho emotweni, families bashona abantwana bakhe. It happens every day la Qiniselani Manyuswa ehadini. It's very serious, and there is no voice added from amaphoyisa ukuthi kuboshwa bani, where are the investigations and all those things. Kubi kahle kahle lisunga abantu abaningi, because mina ngihlala on the other area part of Ugu but eMzumbe. Now usuthola abantu abasuka ngale bebaleka bezohlalela ngala. That's how serious it is. So ngiyacela kakhulu ukuthi nisondele kuyona. Same as Amangwe, you've put it very well. I-background yokubulalana kwabantu lapha is stock theft, because basolana ngomntshontshelana imfuyo. That's where it comes from. But people are killed like flies nakhona lapha eMtshesi. Ngiyacela futhi ukuthi ke nisondele kulaba abaseduze nithole more information. The latest nje i-couple that was killed, wathathu umama wesebulewe wayobekwa ngasebridgini as it was there. So it's like laba bangalaba fike bashaye phinde laba baphendulele. It's in numbers. Ngicela ukuthi niku note nikulandelele kakhulu. Ngiyabonga.
Honorable members, I think the traditional leaders, Gama, as per the government, that's a correct one. We can't take the one and come back and not begin, because this is the one state department, and they fall under the same department, which is court. So this one we can't dispute it because it's an official name for them. unfortunately. I think if generally stop theft, I think I saw you explaining what investigation this crime is derived from this thing and this. So I wish to stop theft myself, which is not solved. In that I'm talking about because it's not like before. I didn't go best job is your full and our is your diet, so is full. But manje ufika amakhanda namanqina mhlawumbe ngoba ezo-10 kanye kanye mhlawumbe ezo-15 kanye kanye amakhanda namanqina futhi zihlinziwe. And there is something ngicabanga mhlawumbe njengamaphoyisa ikhona i-ID encane mhlawumbe thank you, General. Maybe you can respond. It will depend on you if you want your team to assist you.
Okay, Honorable Chair. There's quite a lot of questions, but I'm going to try to see if I can.
Yeah, but some of them are similar to you. I'm just trying to. Yeah.
The intervention, yes and none, especially with regard to rape and murders. Although I did not explain in details about the actual turnaround strategy, which the honourable member spoke about, because we're just going to give status as it was shown here. If you look at the crime stats that has been released, it's going to show you the improvement in terms of the crime in these specific police stations, because it shows that is this crime increasing or is it reducing? So we'll be able to see the numbers. The only unfortunate part is that our stats now are done on quarterly basis. So we tend not to look at the longer period of a year. We release the stats of a quarter versus the previous quarter, which may not be a true reflection of what is happening currently in the police precinct. Because crime over a period might see a difference, but if you compare a shorter period, I might give you a few picture. For instance, you look at the last year's during the lockdown period as compared to this year. When you look at the crime stat, you see as if the crime's gone up. But because last year it was locked down, so there was no much crime. That's where the difference would be. But we'll be able to present that maybe if the committee or if the executive eventually signs off, because even the first quarter has not been presented to the executive. And we are now in the second quarter, but they still kept memo prepared for the first quarter. So there's a delay in terms of government. We made a request from the JCPS that it must be at least on the following month after the end of the quarter that the crime stats must be released so that we're up to date all the time and then see the picture. But our intervention has really helped a lot in terms of the number of members that we've deployed, both at Inda and Mlazi as well as President, which has helped us to reduce crime. I said drinking sports are the causative factors in terms of rape in the main as well as murders, especially now. They are the main driving force. So our target will continue to enforce compliance in terms of legal legislation and so forth in those areas. The unfortunate part is if they've got a license, they're free to open trade. So there's nothing we can do if they're not volunteering anything. But then the patrons become victims. But we'll continue with those activities. The volunteers from Com Safety, they do assist us. We've got a program that is called Committee Blue that we deployed where the Com Safety and the CPF, they go out on the street physically and help us to prevent crime and fight crime. The specialized units, yes, we have quite a number of specialized units that has been pronounced that must be established, but I must maybe indicate the chair, policing, I think with the way I see it, is going to be done by these task teams going forward. Because the permanent members that are working in Newcastle or Madadin and lives at Madadin, born and bred at Madadin, and work at the police station in Madadin, they grow up with criminals. After duty, they stay with these criminals. So they tend to relax and not want to enforce the law, even if they are dedicated. But because of their safety and the families, they end up not acting and allow them the lawlessness to continue. Take the police officer from there and send him to Ladysmith. He will do wonders because he's in a place where nobody knows him. He can do police work freely, and after that he goes home where they don't know where he lives. So we see that a lot. So, but unfortunately, that costs us money because we have to detach members to point A. The success of the political task team is as a result of that. All those members that are working, they are not from KZN. That's why we see this performance. If they were locals, we're not going to see the performance. So, but going forward, the units, yes, are established, but the units get used to it. You have a unit for the taxis got money, and they quickly give them money and they get acclimatized, and they don't get any result. You have established a unit, murder and robbery, you establish a unit on drugs, but as long as they are permanent there, they get used to these criminals, and in time, they end up themselves becoming bad. So ours is to deploy interventions all the time, so that we rotate them, they don't sit stable in the same spot to try and reduce crime. We'll look at detective performance. Yes, caseloads are increasing, detectives are reducing. There's not much incentives that the organization is giving the detectives, but we are discussing that in the national office, making proposal to try and change the careers of the detectives so that they can do more and can encourage more members to join detective involvement. The paralegals, we did employ them in the police, but we shall look at other interventions to also see if we can take away this responsibility we have at the police station. But I want to also plead with the leadership to also help us and pass a message, and that the certification of documents, commissioning of documents can be done by a number of people, not only the police. So the rows and the lines we find at the police station is because society believes only subs can do that. But it's not true. Yourselves are authorized to do that. So if that can be communicated more to our community, it's going to reduce this workload at the police station. We'll bid for that. The police behavior, the programs that we're putting at our colleges, the curriculum, unfortunately, I did not prepare it to come and highlight what is contained in the curriculum of the police. But we believe that our curriculum, starting from the selection process, we bring them in, we do the best selection process, we hope. And our training curriculum try to address certain behaviors of these police officers as they come out. The unfortunate part is it takes 12 years for them in school to learn wrong things. And it takes us less than a year to try and change them. We find a challenge on it. So, but continuously we do our level best to try and change them, but a lot must be changed at school. That's what we're trying to drive in as we work with other departments. Let us change the behavior from school as they grow up, so that when they become citizens, or when they join the police, they are good citizens. We had programs in the past where it was compulsory to join either the army or the police when you finish school. Those are the things we're proposing and saying, maybe everyone must start there. Everyone must out of school straight to the military. Do your 2-year service. Maybe you'll be bit disciplined as a citizen and be loyal to the flag. Maybe you'll start behaving well. Because majority of us, they just don't even sing a national anthem. They don't even know what it says. They don't necessarily care much about it. So that's the society that we have, that we're trying to change. And I must say, Honorable Chair, joints, we have the structure such as joints, but the meeting seats, but participation is poor. We try to get all the HODs to part. They don't pitch up. And there's no consequences. DG wrote letters and instructing them to attend, still they don't attend. So we really are powerless when it comes to forcing government departments to be part of it. I'm excluding obviously ComSafe because they are with us in the same portfolio. But in the rest of the departments, they just don't pitch up. I mean, it's even as worse as the chief of Metro in Etegwini doesn't even attend some of the meetings. They delegate to juniors. And there's no consequences regardless of whether you report it to the seniors. So these are the challenges that we face. We do hope that this can be assisted in forcing these HODs to be part of their performance agreement to make sure they pass on this. Because majority of the things, strategies and plan can be developed from these joints. We'll come up with programs as a collective to prevent crime or reduce crime as departments, as collectives. Police criminality, in terms of what we are doing as the police, we feel that we need to review 2 things. One of them is labor laws. To discipline a police officer that does crime and dismiss it, it goes through the appeal process with the unions and they find technicalities and they win the appeal and they back to the system. When you sign them off for them to be reinstated and they were dismissed some 4 or 5 years ago, it pays us because we must pay them for the whole period. We know they did wrong, but the union will defend them because it's their employees, they pay them their affiliation money. So they must defend them, even if they're out of the service. So it's a challenge we have, and we feel the labor law that protects our police officers maybe creates a problem for us. And maybe we might need to start behaving like military, because military, you do crime, you end up in prison. In the police, you do crime, we dismiss you, and then you get treated like any other citizen when you go to court. It's unlike the military. That's why discipline in the military is different than the police. It's because they don't have the rights that the police officers have. So we might need to be assisted in reviewing those. Criminal laws, obviously, it's some of the processes that will allow us to be able to prosecute. We talk about the lifestyle audit of police officers. It's something we talk about, something government is trying to do, but the reality is we are challenged. We are challenged in as far as saying to a person, you bought this vehicle because of money that you receive from a taxi owner. The least we can do is to dismiss you from the police. But even if we do that, you throw the constitutional book at us and you come back into the organization. That's the laws protect a lot of wrong that we have, that we see in society. So it needs a serious sit down and understand and analyzing of all the weaknesses in our laws, both labor laws and criminal laws, that will help us. We feel that we should perhaps review this criminal procedure as well, in order to prevent people from knowing what secrets do we have against them in court when we go to court, until the criminal procedure is reviewed. Unfortunately, they have a right to know what is it that we have, so they don't surprise them. But if we take it to legislation and we change that, it might help us. We feel that from the executive lawmakers, yourselves as executive, the government might need to prioritize some of the legislations. The Domestic Violence Act, as an example, the government has made certain rules that says, one, when you hit your wife, and your wife comes to the police station to open a case, the police doesn't ask you a question, they're going to arrest you. The law says that. But the law on the other side, outside domestic violence, man to man, I can beat you up until you blue in your face. You go to a police station, open a case, the police cannot arrest you. They cannot. You can only arrest if it's common assault we can't. You can only arrest if it's an assault before it was grievous bodily harm, where you are bruised and everything. But even that we can't arrest. We'll arrest only when you assault a person in the presence of a police officer, or when you assault a person in such a manner that in the observation of a police officer, the wound that was inflicted was so dangerous that it might cause you death. Only then arrest. But your being bruised in the face does not necessarily mean you're most likely going to die, so therefore the police cannot arrest. No, it's the law that says that. So, but in a domestic violence, a slap on the face, you get arrested. So if your lawmakers can change the law to be like a domestic violence, the behavior might change. So we're allowing a lot of people to get away with small things and they end up doing serious crime. So we're able to do it with domestic violence. A lot of legislation can be reviewed like that. So that's my recommendation in as far as that is concerned. SIU do come to us with the information when they are ready to prosecute, but by and large, they start by trying to recover a lot of things, and until they finalize with that, when they see, okay, there's criminality on that, they approach us, or they go to asset forfeiture unit, so that some assets that might have been stolen from government can be taken and be forfeited to the state. So we do get that, but they work a lot with DPCI. Most information they get, they take it to DPCI because they tend to deal with high-profile cases. As I said, commercial cases of a certain value falls under DPCI because they're regarded as a serious economic offense. The attacks on malls, our plan is we have already started working with security companies in those shopping centers to try and improve response, eyes and ears, so that we're able to respond fast as a police. But in some prime times, we like to deploy more police officers. We do send them there. Unfortunately, the existence of shopping centers, which the leadership appreciates, and I'm glad to hear that you go to shopping center. I take it that you don't buy in Pine Town, in town, sir. So because of that, the city dies. The city dies. There are a lot of children that are living in the city, that are wandering around, leaving their own houses to live in street. When they're in town, they rob for them to survive. So anyone get pickpocketed in town, even if we chase them, they sleep there on the street. If you arrest them, they're here because they've got food. when you arrest them. You release them, they go back to the street, they do the same. It's a vicious cycle that we find ourselves in. You go to Durban there next to the exit at the harbour, you'll find you won't be able to walk there. I don't know, they'll kill you. But they're there, and we, the police, have got no right to move them. They've got the right to be there. Unfortunately, they have to survive. So that generates criminality, unfortunately. So you end up you run to the shopping center. Everyone then goes to a shopping center. Now the population at the shopping center becomes too much for us to police easily. Because there's just entrances in all directions, there's people all over the place, the criminals are in that mix. You never know that he's in that shop to rob until he robs, until he starts shooting. But ordinarily, nobody gets searched. You don't get searched coming to a shopping center. So we say to a security company, try to start introducing those metal detectors for people walking in. Treat it like a casino. You don't go into a casino to fire. So if the shopping center can be treated like that, it might create a safe environment. So these are some of the engagement we're having with those shopping centers going forward. We hope they will assist us. So vehicle maintenance contracts in the police, unfortunately, that one is controlled at national level, these contracts. We don't have a say much in the police. We will love your intervention, honorable members, that the section 206, especially section 4 of the Constitution, it empowers the provincial government to have a strict oversight over the police on anything and make recommendation on things that are not working to the minister at national so that things can be changed. One of the critical things we feel, and I hope, I wish, when my contract comes to an end, it might have been achieved, is to delegate functions to the provincial police. Unfortunately, when you talk like that, then Western Cape comes into haunt us, because if you say you're going to delegate, they're going to say now you're giving powers to a different political party, and then that might not be authorized. But the reality is, if you delegate a lot of functions to the provincial commissioner, it empowers the provincial commissioner to set up those contracts for those services of cars. But now you don't have a say. We take the contract as is and we execute at the provincial level. Procurement of buildings, maintenance of buildings. It pains me when I walk to a police station, I find police officers working in those modular structures, park homes that have got holes all over. There's nothing I can do about it. That is even delegated to public works, not even us. So that Devolution Act needs to be reviewed. But just to get the Act reviewed so that the powers given back to the police, it's a challenge. That must be resolved. Once that is resolved, then we can say, then police commissioner delegate further to the provincial commissioner. Then once it's delegated, we can say, then Jaramkana's, why this police station looks like this? Jaramkana, why there's no police station additional at this police prison? For now, we can like and wish to have a police station, but the sad part is that more than 200 million rand on facility management budget is given back to treasury almost every year at national level. With more than 200 million rand that we give. We have a lease portfolio of over 1.5 billion rand national that we are renting, not to own, just renting. The provincial office in Durban, we are paying 1.8 million rands a month, right? And we're not owning, we're not renting it all. We're just renting every month. We dish out. So we have more serious problems that from the executive might need to be known, and something must be done in order for us to have. So a policy review, and in terms of delegation of certain authorities to the province for the provincial commission to be able to execute duties, as well as the legislation review, as I said, especially as far as facilities are concerned, buildings, build, maintain a police station. The legislation needs to be changed because it empowers public works in the main. We take note that we should strengthen our control with regard to the misuse of state resources, as you said, that how police officers are treating police vehicles and the likes. The stock theft, in our analysis, what we've seen, I'm sure honorable members do go to Chisanya every now and then. We see a lot of these livestock ending up there. The unfortunate part, when you arrive there and you see a stake, the stake has got no serial number. So if you ask, where did you buy, as a butcher, where did you buy this steak? You will say, no, I got my cattle at a particular farm. You might go to that farm and find them. If they're not branded, then it becomes a problem. Because if he steals it and he puts it on brand, and he keeps it there in the farm, he owns it. Even the one that's got a brand, remember, you ban it. That brand you ban, assign Q, and you register that Q. He comes back and he just bans something to cut that Q. and make it look different. Ours is to look at this cow and the branding on the cow, which is a sign that was designed when you ban it, and you go and register that and it says oh, so you can't change it. So that's what we find. The person can put a V as a brand sign. The other one come and put another V next to it, it becomes a W. So it's no longer your cow, it's somebody else's cow. We even said recommendation, put chips in the horns. So once you put a chip in the horn, you just need to scan the horn. Because if a person for you to own it means you must de-horn it, and how far can you de-horn it? That becomes maybe a safer thing that you put in those animals. But other than that, the final destination is not to keep them, but is to sell them. Pambi mama get, utolo mama babezidlala things. And siyathenga every day. Chicken dust in malokishini, siyathenga every day. So the stock gets stolen to feed people. That's where ultimately it goes to. Why police are refusing oversight bodies that are doing oversight visits at the station, and I'm sure the honorable member will know better about that. And I've fought with the National Commission that we need to be given a black and white directive that is standard. What currently is not there is an assumption that because a member of parliament, a member of the legislature is politically appointed and is assigned to a certain portfolio, they is sent by the community to go and do oversight of the performance of government. But there's no criteria that is set as to who and when and how. So that's where we're finding ourselves, Honorable Chair, as a challenge. Because the honorable member, within his right, is going to arrive at the police station. And he says, I'm here to do oversight, I'm a member of parliament. There are 1,000 members of parliament. You might come there as a member of the committee, or you might come there as a member of the political party. Where do we draw the line? Is a report of your oversight going to end up in parliament with a part of the report of the committee, or is it going to end up in a political party that's going to be used as ammunition when the MEC or the minister appears before the committee? So that's where we find ourselves in a crossfire as departments, especially the police. So what we'll request is that we'll be assisted. I've already asked the National Commission that there ought to be a standard rule written down by the Speaker, Parliament, by the Speaker of the Legislature, that goes to ministers, to the MECs, so that every department knows that this is how you're going to identify a person. And when a person enters a facility, this is what this person must do. Because especially in the police, you've got sensitive areas that you shouldn't go to. But if you come in and say, this is a public space and I'm a public representative, I've got the right, it creates a problem. Some police officers allow you, but others will say, no, I'm responsible for all these police assets. If anything goes wrong, I'll be blamed, so I don't allow you. So we end up with a bit of a challenge in there, but we hope soon we are going to get it in black and white, that is going to be discussed and agreed amongst yourself that we must apply. It is not our intention to stop the role that the oversight bodies are doing. Disposal of our police resources, we do sell vehicles from sometimes to time, and other items we have the money we generate that we bring back into our purse, and it's not, unfortunately, not that much. The hunting and among matters, we are going to look at that. There's deployment currently that have signed off, approved. The one there on Monday, they're going to be sitting, operating in the South Coast and focusing on the matters in the South Coast for the next 3 months. So we do hope that we're going to try and prevent or reduce those number of matters. Honorable Chair, as I close, maybe my comment, I thought I've answered all the questions. I want to make a recommendation, maybe the com safety, the department where my colleague is heading. You might want to, maybe as a committee, to look at the model which I think is best for Gauteng and Mpumalanga. They've got their own MEC dedicated for an oversight role in the police. The entire MEC. It's not sharing it with transport. It's got a full focus on what the police does, and therefore the budget that they have is increased, and therefore the personnel staff they've got is increased, and they've got a better oversight role over the police than what KZN is about. And Mpumalanga has got employees of about 10,000, if not less, police officers. KZN is second biggest in the country after Gauteng. So we've got more population, more police stations, more than Gauteng. Although personnel Gauteng got 25,000 employees, we've got 18,000 or 23,000 in KZN. So we've got no reason to not upgrade the home safety and liaison into a department on its own, with its own MEC that is going to have a proper oversight board over the police. If they're not, they will just come and scratch the surface, not get to know exactly what's wrong with the police. And therefore, the executive will not necessarily have proper interventions. So, thanks so much.
I want to remain on you and back.
Siyabonga. Ama responses general. I think colleagues of general covered all. I just want us to.
There's a resolution of the committee.
Okay.
Oh, Chair, because we correct it's an official meeting of the portfolio committee. I wanted to suggest, Chair, that we resolve to write to the minister and request an audience with the Minister of Police as well as the National Commissioner, so that we address some of the issues that were raised by the Provincial Commissioner that are an impediment in terms of the operations of the police in the province, including the issues of the devolution of powers into the province. Now, we have problems. We can't begin to then complain about Western Cape. If the devolution of powers are, South Africa is a unitary state. We can't then have a impediment simply because there is a province that is governed by another party, but it remains part of South Africa. Therefore, if there is something that is troubling us, national must then act in the best interest of the people, not in the best interest of politics. So that would be my recommendation, Chair.
Sengikhuluma sokudala bami. Ngiyameselela nje. Ngiphinde futhi ngiphawule lapha ekutheni u-Provincial Commissioner. Awulinde ukuba department ukuthi impelele eMpumalanga transport uhamba no-public works to allow ukuthi amaphoyisa ngiyasekela-ke i-proposal amfowethu lohlezi ngabe eduze kwamshini.
Usekelile abesoyakhomenta nje akuyona isiphakamiso ngokwenza. No-commissioner beyakhomenta ukuthi ngakuhle kakhulu. Usumdala onamphephetwa la kule legislature khona ozaziyo abangazazi abancane khona ozaziyo. So I suggest it's a very good recommendation, General. But in a thousand and a half months. Them good, yeah. But there, I think, John Commissioner, when you were presenting, you were always saying, please assist as a government. I think it will be proper. Even as the data are controlled nationally. And they are causing problems here. We have to deal with them national. But I think presentation and report responses, we are comfortable with them. And going forward, we will have to try and deal with some issues here. But I can tell you right now, some of them are very difficult. Budget becomes a problem. Some of the arrangements itself becomes a problem because you want to do something. I'm saying arrangement, but actually some of them are even laws. You can't go across trying to fix something there. Like our criminals, they've got more rights than everyone. I want the criminal, they've got more rights than everyone. You can't all right here. I figure jail, I mean, right. Remember, you don't take jail in the sport. food. Even Nana. Criminal by shy boys and the bar, but the person like shy criminal and bar. It's a big issue. So we are having those challenges, I think, which we must fix. What a food, again, democracy, it puts us there, and the previous experience, the previous experience, it puts us where we are, because there was abuse of power to certain individuals, or maybe to certain groupings, and then it ended up leading to making these restrictions to even protect the criminal. But now, how do you judge, man? This is a real criminal. I look at the but you boys about seven. Very last boys who die. But don't want is what you force it on his bar, but you stay with my father. So it's I think generally your presentation is full of measures. Some of us, what is easy, does not must have. Started with the and the shower whether it's domestic violence or it's on the street, but I'm actually asking that far. And if you go even domestic violence, I find with gender. When it's a male, they say generally when a male comes to report a case, you say, hey, where Captain House and Mala? You say, I'm worried, I'm going to if you figure second family le balestation okay ka tela to of pop to le baba but that's how it is. I think I agree with our members what we need to engage with internationally, but we will see what how we do that. And the global committee generally, sometimes it's interesting to general someone who's deployed in a high position like yourself, showing that he knows his job very well. It's interesting. When you start with one, it's a pencil, but a important so thank you, General. I just want us to discuss something. I want to check something here. We started to try that. Provincial Community Policy Board is now okay. KZN CPPA, okay. IP, PSIRA, Hawks, DCSL, yes. Can I suggest that problem 2, number 7, ubizwe mase siubhodle namhlanje then ubizwe. Okay, can we do that? I suggest we do that. Can I just check ngoba ngifuna ukumposa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, how much do you need guys to present? The presentation of stakeholders, or item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yes, sir.
Chair, 2, I presentation, just few things that I want to talk about. Go back to start again, so I presentation.
No. You see, guys, in an official meeting like this, if you just come and present, it is difficult because we are recording here, we are taking minutes, and now in future, you might distance yourself from that information because I will not back on. Can I suggest what Dr. Matot say back before I give presentation? Tim, is it okay? Right. Number one. Yes, sir.
About 10 minutes.
Okay. Uzafuna ukukhuluma sizwa
Check, clearly interesting manyana.
Yeah.
The protection, you never corner, I said it.
Yeah.
When KZN60 we refer as it to one. Show me that long corner.
Referred by who?
Remember, it should be as a parliament.
Fonala?
Yes, it's the one.
Oh, I'm trying to
I'm
okay, but we agree with the show, General.
Honorable Chair, if you're done with that point, I was going to propose that 3, 4, and 5 you might want to defer because it's on a mandate which you can read. Otherwise, if they need to come and present the work they are doing, then next time they can be invited. Just for them to come and talk about the mandate, I don't think it's worth it.
Agreed? Yes, yes. Okay. You said General 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 1,
3, 4, and 5.
So 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the first two.
No, 2, I think is this one who said it does not have presentation.
Oh yeah, also my 10 meeting.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's over to present the one.
Chairperson, I was going to say 6 and 7. We've just collapsed it into one presentation.
Today?
No, not today. I'm saying it's one presentation.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're not going to present them today.
We'll get the guidance from the chairperson.
But it's not going to be long. How long?
15 minutes.
15. Try 10. Just try 10. Okay. 1. How long do you need one? 10 minutes. Okay, so it's 1. I said 1 and 6. Go over. 6. So it's only 2 now. Okay. Can we start number 1?
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to the honorable members of the legislature. Mine is not a long presentation, but our role as a CPF in KZN is to bridging the gap between the police and the committee, the community. I think Chairperson brand new from the board, CPF.
Not actually that. Oh. I told you I'm new because it's my first day here. But don't worry about information. I got information.
Okay. No, thanks. Chairperson, I think we're working closer with Provincial Commissioner and the entire management of SARS and also each department of ComSafe, Babukoniwe Nabanya. We do have some programs that we are dealing with it in the community, especially the awarenesses, but I can't point each and every project that we've done. This year is for the year of election, and as you know, Chairperson, that now we're changing to the district models, even SAPs and also the community structures. We are starting now changing those, and we had a lot of meetings And in our structures, we agreed that there is a change now. The change is that we extend now the board with having a traditional rep, legal rep, BAC rep, and also religious rep in our structures. The update report on the establishment of the Community Policing Forum. Background here too. Starting the Professional Community Policy Board was launched in 2017, and now we already finished 5 years. Since 2017, we lost 2 members of the board that we passed on, one from Herigwala and also one from Inanda. The process of launching this community policies forum has started by launch of district board was delayed due to the process of amending constitution. While we are electing some stations, we get some problems with people that were not want to go to the elections because of such things that is in the constitution. The meeting was finalized, the inputs in the amendment of the district and provincial board constitution was held on the 17th of June. The meeting could not resolve also some issues raised, was further delayed the adoption of the constitution. Therefore, the district and the provincial AGM, the provincial ESCO on the 21st of July this year, resolved to hold a special full board on the 4th of August 2022. The meeting on the 4th of August aims to give a direction, one, to recommend to constitution amendments for the district and provincial board, discuss and approve the schedule of the district and provincial launch, finalize the support which will be rendered by the board, and remind the district board by the national SAPS have given the KZN a deadline of end September 2022 for this launch, which after they will do visits. The processes of establishment was communicated to the district commanders and also to the provincial commander on the 24th of November. The district commanders were to cascade the information to their respective station. One, the process of establishment stipulated as follows. 1, establishment of sub-forum was supposed to start in January to February 22. Establishment of SPF in the station will start at March to April 22. And the establishment of this district May to June, and the provincial board in June. But unfortunately, we have some those issues that I've already alluded with. The station were also instructed to submit their document as a proof that each process has been completed. As we know that we have 184 stations. The update of establishment of CPF, slide number, Amachuba, all stations have relaunched. At Teguini, we've got some disputes to some stations, but now they are going to have their own AGMs. Herigwala, we finished. Ilembe, we finished. Ugu, we finished. Umgumundo,